like, that's beyond me. I'm
Yeah, of
watching
course.
videos on how to install a Viper alarm system just so I can understand like if I have to unplug it.
This dude. Just
I'm like, yo, and then I'm like, I told my pops, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, yo, the car don't start. The car started when it got here. I was like, I have no choice but to take this car. I'm like, the car was running. I'm like, I got no choice. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, what the fuck? And then he's just laughing. He's like, yo, so it won't start. And I'm like, this thing really won't start. I'm like, yo, this thing is like being like this. I'm like, it's giving us nightmares, PTSD, like the other you got. And he's just laughing because I'm like, yeah, before, but literally right before, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, hey, that's a nicer Yukon than one we had. And I'm like, at least the driver's window goes up and down. It shouldn't do the no starting thing. You know what I mean? Like, this one, look at it. It's in nice shape. Open the door. I make the video show. I'm like, look how clean it is. Okay. Go Walmart, get the battery.
and Papui.
I'm like, this ain't my piece of shit. I go open it, I go look outside, like, this ain't the XL. This ain't my like piece of shit that was like a really piece of shit. Let's try to forget. Let me get my
Alrighty.
blue driver scanner. It doesn't work. HP tuner. HP tuner scanned it though.
Well, that's good. At least one of them scanned it.
Hmm.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, good sign. And no other code, so not definitely not a communication code, but it scares me because I'm like, is it a communication code? Like you on those U codes, but whatever. We got things to talk about, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, we are live. I
yeah, we do. We got things to talk about.
I
Lots of things.
like to catch you off guard every single
Yeah,
time.
and I got a coffee. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm not. I'm more ready than I was Thursday, so I'm ready.
This
That
dude.
doesn't count. Matter of
Ah, is
fact,
that right?
scrap it, scrap it, throw it away, ball it up, throw it in the trash. Never happened.
Well, then you gotta wait till this Thursday to get your little redemption.
Ah, no, I'm doing my today. Today's redemption day.
Nah, it's Thursday, man. It's because Thursday's a night. We gotta see how you do on that night.
Man, I'm old.
You said I'm old. You only 1 year older than me, bruh. Talk
I'm
about I'm
old.
old.
I'm old, man. I'm old. I can't help it. I can't do it.
He said, "Mama, I love you."
See,
P.O.P. Hold it down.
yeah. See, I'm
Oh
old.
man. Alrighty, but now let's get this thing started. Welcome, guys. We are your host as always. I go by Sir Rod. He goes by Sir Black. We are the ICE podcast for
All right.
people who don't know what ICE stands for. Internal combustion engines. For people who are gearheads, more likely they'll know. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. Where we gonna start off on the American side of things, or
Cheater. Hmm?
that's some high quality H2O?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You are. You got some H2O, fine H2O yourself there, I see.
Yeah, cause I be like talking and all of a sudden my throat hurt.
No. Like,
Exactly. Cobwebs, you know.
hmm.
Fucking. So let's start off with more of your end of things. Are factory Baja trucks like the T Rex and the Ford Raptor worth the expense, or should building your own be the better, cheaper alternative? For those who don't
Oh, you
know,
want to air?
I've
Okay.
I've built Blake's truck. How long ago was it now that we
I hear.
completed it? Was 2 years ago? 3 years
I
ago?
honestly want to say almost 3 years ago now, actually. I want to say two and a half
Was it
years ago.
2023 or was it 2022? Because it took a
It was
year.
2022.
It took a year to finish because it was just a bunch of going back and forth, a bunch of miscellaneous parts, a bunch of parts that were ordered too many times. It was like a car
Excuse
timing
me?
cover, truck timing cover, Another truck timing cover, like all this other stuff. We made it work. Don't get me wrong, but it was like that's what I'm saying. It took longer than what it should.
Hey, more parts the merrier. Yeah, definitely was 2022. I remember driving it in 2022. So
So it's 3 years
I
ago
really want to say, yeah. So
because we
it's
got
been
it.
running. Is
We got it done by that summer,
yes,
and
yes,
that one has besides porting that one has fully built heads, somewhat new push rods, Hellcat lifters. Your was that your spec cam? I forget what it was called.
yeah. Torque Max cam,
Yeah, your
SRT
Torque
Torque
Max
Max.
cams, Torque Max cam, new push rods. We kept this. Did we keep the? Yeah, we kept the stock lifters because the lifters were fine. They could hold.
No,
New.
Hellcat lifters, but we kept the stock
We kept the stock
push
rock
rods,
arms.
I
Rock
believe.
arms. We kept stock rock
Yeah, yeah,
arms.
yeah. Those are
So we did
new
that.
springs.
So other than the port, they pretty much have built heads because they have the beehive springs, the spacer retainers, and
Yeah,
the
and they
block,
weren't titanium.
the
I
yeah
went
the
with the other ones for a daily driver.
yeah of course
Get what it's called.
I mean titanium could hold well. Don't get me wrong. The if you're going valve keepers,
Yeah.
if you're going like valves, you just have to have a nice pressure treated titanium or like a forged titanium rod. I mean rod valve. So you get a little more revs.
Hmm.
They're just expensive. That's really what it comes down to is how much money you were throwing at it. So you wanted to keep it as mild but as built as possible. What's that?
It was definitely more expensive. I'll tell you that for the titanium.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, but what did I end up doing? Like a little over 5,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that was just a built head 6.1 basically. Stock rod, stock piston, stock crank, everything like that.
Full exhaust, full 3-inch exhaust all the way back. Dual exhaust, true dual, but X pipe and a muffler, dual in, dual out muffler. Just try to fire it up.
Yeah, cause you wanted that
Um,
Hemi to be rowdy. I'm like, bro, like it's cool and all, but it's a truck. You don't want to get pulled over.
yeah. See, that's the thing. They usually leave trucks alone, which is good. Like but like lately, it seems like yeah, if anything's loud, they might look at you. But for as of right now, yeah, they still kind of leave trucks and diesel trucks alone. They're like, whatever.
Yeah, but good thing we put that on,
But
cause otherwise, if you were straight piped, you would have been screwed.
yeah, I definitely wanted the straight pipe, then I would have been screwed because it would. I'm like, it's already loud enough as it is.
Of course.
So like, if you tell me straight pipe would have been either somewhat louder or just more obnoxious, no. Yeah, I mean, pretty much the engine's been worked over. It just needs a trans. I mean, now transmission too has been worked over. I mean, slightly just has a 3K stall in it now after eating the first one, but ate the first one from sitting in traffic. Heat soak, too much heat soak. Never
yeah,
seen a light before that said the transmission hot.
yeah, cause of that
Never,
fan. Shut off the fan.
yeah. Shut off the fan, and also the exhaust being too close to the transmission. No,
Well,
heat shielding. Yeah,
I get that, but that's not enough. It's the fact that the fluid didn't get no cooling, cause that's constantly
yeah,
circulating.
that's what. But you know what?
Cause
I
you
would say
could put the
I don't know.
exhaust as close to the transmission as you want. It has a casing, so as much as it will heat up, it won't heat up as much as you think it would.
But would it heat up for me sitting in 2 hours worth of traffic in the city?
With the fan off, yes,
See, the fan never kicked on. That's the thing.
because you
And
manually shut it off.
well, no, that was a different scenario. That's when it ran out of coolant. That's when I had somebody else driving. It won't say any names, but I had somebody else driving it, and they accidentally hit the red button, shut off the fan, and drove it without coolant and overheated the engine. Fortunately, the engine, was it held up, put coolant back in it, and she just
Yeah,
heard on as if business usual.
when you have a cast iron block, they still warp, but not as much as aluminum. You know,
Thank God,
that's
thank God.
you know
But
how many times my engine over was starting to overheat, like because of like loss of coolant, because I still think I have to do head gaskets. But other than that, like
Still work.
oh, it still works. You just gotta let it calm down.
Yeah.
You just gotta let the with whatever coolant's left in it. You just gotta rev it so that it circulates. So that all right, I'm dropping down, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Then you go home,
Yep.
put more coolant, and go about your day.
Yeah. Go by your day. But I mean, I know it's sat in traffic. So like that day, that was the first day I've ever seen that gear symbol icon. I've never seen that before. But it's a learning experience. Like it's like okay, like next time, like from now on, for example, with the truck, I don't plan on keeping it in traffic, stop and go traffic. And if there is stop and go traffic, I plan on stopping, not going. Or I do plan on adding a couple of little reinforcements. Like for example, the only reason why it could be the exhaust, because I mean, I went from OEM material on the muffler, thickness with the steel. I believe OEM is like only a 2 inch exhaust,
Yes, but
and it's a
even
wide pipe, and
what I'm saying
and now
is
I got a true dual 3 inch.
what I'm saying is even then, um, people forget the reason why manufacturers are now using aluminum today, not only because they figured out the strength properties, but it's because it dissipates heat quicker. So although the exhaust was near your transmission, the way it's routed, it dissipates heat a lot quicker. You like that's what people always forget to understand for some reason.
Yeah, definitely dissipated. Yeah, definitely heated up
So
my transmission.
so as
Definitely
much as I like
dissipated the
this,
heat from the exhaust.
like as much as I like to say, oh, that could have been a cause. Like it's not like it was touching; it was just close to it. So, but and it was more on the aluminum side of it versus the steel pan. So it's like yeah, it was boiling a little, but it wasn't enough for it to boil over like it does when the transmission's working too hard and it's not getting enough like cooling properties like a trans oil cooler. That's what it comes down to be honest. That's the
I'll
way I look
agree
at
to
it
that,
because like people do two and
but
a half, 3 inch exhaust on Rams and they have to go through that section anyhow, you know. And then at that point,
I will say most of them do wrap it.
that's but
Most of them
even
I
if
found
but
out they
all right,
do wrap that area.
but what about the stock exhaust? Because like let's say for example like what was it Luz did that exhaust anyway. They're going through what the factory section of it is. You know what I'm saying?
I, my only take is only because I kind of increased the pipe an inch and a half, so it's like it went from being like like this big to like so now it's like it went from having maybe this much space like factory like this much space in the transmission to like basically right here. So it's like right up on it now. So like
I I
that's
understand
kind
where
of
you're
like my
coming from.
only.
I'm not saying it wasn't a factor. What I'm saying is it's less likely a factor. That's all
Oh
I'm
yeah, no,
saying.
it's probably less likely.
Because
But the only thing is,
what I'm
it
saying
happened.
is those that comes with a transcooler, right?
A tiny one, but
Hey, it
unfortunately,
has a transcooler, so if a fan ain't pulling
but
that transcooler to cool down, there you go.
I'm gonna say that that's also true. I know. So give or take, you have a point because that is something I also looked into. Let me just be honest. Um, that's kind of why I said I wouldn't sit in stop and go traffic. I guess if we look at the Rams, they have one big major fan for the engine, and the
Yes.
transcooler generally is in front of that.
Yes.
Sometimes I think what I read is the transcooler is not in front of the radiator. It'll be in front of the AC, but I think I'm don't gonna be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I still believe it's in front of the radiator, but it doesn't have its own circuit to kick the fan on. I guess it just uses whatever air is coming through because it assumes that hey, if the engine's getting hot, by the time the engine's warm, transmission will be warm too. But I kind of I mean I don't know. It's weird. And the fan never kicked on. It kicked on occasionally, but I know once I started moving, if you will, like once I started driving, transmission calmed down, cooled down, and that day I wasn't even really beating on it. I just actually I remember leaving work that day, getting stuck in 2 hours worth of traffic, and it started raining. So like it wasn't a hot day, so it was pretty cool. And it just said, hey, transmission hot, and it's only because I know I sat in traffic for like literally stop and go, not moving, just inching up in Boston, inching
No,
up, and
but
then I
yeah,
got the
that's
scare.
understandable. But when a lot of times people forget, it's never the properties around the stuff that quickly makes it overheat. It's the lack of elemental cooling properties that makes it overheat. For example, every time I had to do a RAV4 engine, right? And they're stupid little four cylinder. They're stupid reliable, but people neglect them because they think, oh, I got a Toyota that's gonna last forever. Nothing's ever gonna break. Not knowing that radiators can, break or leak because it's an expendable part. So then when radiators go on that car, which for some reason the majority of them did, I had to do an engine because it overheated. But it didn't overheat because the exhaust was right next to the block, which is literally crosses right in front of the trans. So that has like I understand your exhaust was closer to the trans, but by design, I didn't like that the exhaust ran right next to the trans and the engine oil pan on the Rav4, but it never made it overheat. So I could understand why they did that. It was the lack of
Mm.
coolant because the radiator just shit the bed, leaked all the coolant. That's what it come down to. So that's why I say yeah, stop and go traffic can be a factor of not getting enough airflow. But the way we put
Yeah.
on that fan, the way I did that controller, the temp sensor, the switches and all that stuff. I
Oh.
wouldn't say stop and go
Oh yeah, yeah.
traffic was the
This see,
issue.
that's the thing. It would be nothing you would have done. This is all a how do I call it?
User
If
error.
this was a GM or no, if this was a GM or Ford, not use error. If this was a GM or Ford, it would have had a switch that says transmission hot, kick on the fan, boom. Uh, from what I can see, Dodges don't really, since they have that tiny radiator, that that tiny transmission cooler, they don't really have a how do I call it? There's not a parameter that says transmission hot, kick on the fan, because it doesn't think that the fan. Not all of these Dodges actually came in a transmission cooler,
Yeah.
so it was kind of like added after just to help keep the temperatures down, and they really only do good if the truck's moving. But like, no,
I
it's
I
just
under
I can see it's
I
common on the
understand that. Don't get me wrong. So all right, were you in stop and go traffic and the switch was off? Because I remember the switch was off from when you told me, and that's why that happened.
So no, that's a separate story. That's what I'm saying. Two different stories. When I was in Boston one day, morning time, driving it, and I had somebody with me driving
Hmm.
the truck. I let them drive the truck. They accidentally hit their knee on the switch, drove it all around the city, boiled all the coolant out the engine, just the coolant.
Yeah.
So I got to the truck, zero coolant in it, nothing. Truck did his job, still did his job, still took us everywhere. I got there, we had to limp it along in more stop and go traffic.
Mm.
If you notice, stop and go traffic's always been the issue. So,
Yeah.
when in stop and go traffic, and unfortunately, but at this time, this was only because someone's knee hit the switch. If they didn't hit the switch, I would have been fine. The truck would have never overheated because that fan can pull so much air through. It's not even funny. Um, but when the truck transmission, when I got that gear light, this was a evening at like 6 p.m. You know what I mean? Versus like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. type thing or 1 p.m. type thing,
Hmm.
where like, yeah, it's the middle of the day. This was when the sun went down. It was kind of cool at night. It's only like 60 degrees. It was kind of raining and misty that night. But I sat in traffic for 2 hours because the way I took, I was actually going towards, I believe at the time, going to the shop just to go to the shop. And then, believe it or not, yeah, after sitting in traffic, the I got the gear symbol, and I'm like, what's going on? And I remember I clicked the fan on manually because you the way you wired it, you have a on,
And
you
off.
have
A
basically
four.
like OEM, and then you have off. Like
Yeah.
you have on, use the relay sensor and everything, and then you have off. So I turned it on to see if it helped bring the temperature down of the transmission, but didn't really do much. Like I still had the gear symbol; it was still slipping in and out of gear. But to be honest, once I started moving, once I got some wind through it, that thing went from being like a 4L slippy to being back to being a a regular transmission. It's like, hey, all right, yeah, let's go. But
Well, that's because
ever
that
since the day, I had to
transcooler's in
keep my
front of
eye
the
on it.
radiator, right?
Yeah, so and ever since that day, I had to keep my eye on it. So then, basically, whenever I would drive the truck, long story short, I know I'm going on a rant now. Whenever I would drive it, I turn off overdrive and the uh, overdrive and the tow haul mode. I would turn that on and overdrive. That way, that it's like it locks out second prime and fifth gear and all that. But one day somebody else drove the truck, and they didn't know that I always turn off overdrive and stuff like that just
Mm-hmm.
to preserve the life and not let it do weird things. And yeah, let's say the truck got driven, and then I get
The
back
fan got
home.
turned off.
Oh no, the fan was still on. But I got home, turn on the truck, go down to drive the truck down the road, and mind you, just the day before, drove it all the way to Brockton and back. My usual routes. Did an hour driving back. Go down the street, truck gets stuck in third gear, and I'm like, let me just call whoever and ask them, where'd you drive the truck? And, you know, did you press this button? No. Okay. Did you touch the fan? No. Okay. Well, since you didn't do this, it died. Yeah. And so that's how that went. But essentially, with this transmission, though, my goal with this one is exhaust wrap, only because I know the other person. I wish too bad it wasn't you to swap transmission in, but I had one of my other buddies swap transmission again, and fortunately they didn't have to cut the exhaust. They were able to finagle it around. I think all they did was unbolt it from the headers, like you said, to
Yeah,
give it enough clearance,
yeah,
and so he left it like that. But he did tell me that I should probably consider wrapping it, only because it's like literally like almost touching. Like,
yeah. It's fairly
and
close.
it's not knocking loose like, and so like when I went underneath of a stock Ram, it's like there's a lot more clearance, and they have like a little. I'm not gonna call it like a section, but it's like a little,
Like a little area.
yeah, a little area and like a little cover that basically protects the transmission a little bit. And I'm like, okay, I don't have that anymore because I
No,
don't have the stock exhaust.
no.
And so then like you said, aluminum does dissipate heat faster, and you're right about that. Because at first I'm like, oh, is it the transmission? I looked it up. Aluminum does dissipate heat. So I was like, oh, maybe not. But then if you're sitting though, and that was my problem. There's probably a moment that I didn't drive a mile in like 30, 40 minutes,
Uh-huh.
and literally just was just inching forward. And I think that's kind of what killed it. If I hadn't, moved like, mm,
Yeah.
stop, stop. Like actually cycled it, I think I would have been fine. But it just after sitting for so long, it just started like I remember trying to take off, and it was like it felt like it was a real bad manual. It was like I'm like, what?
Oh man,
I tried putting it in the first gear, and it was like, nope. The second gear, nope. I'm like, oh no.
that's what modifications come with. You do one thing, you gotta do it all. Not saying
And
the
so
stock components can't hold, but when you're throwing something that's not used to, then
you gotta make sure everything is in line. Otherwise,
yeah,
any weaknesses or failure points will show, and that's kind of what I wanted to get at.
of course.
Like for example, that transmission. Long story short, I'll stop rambling because I want to talk about the Baja trucks. But that transmission, good. But now that I put a newer, more refreshed one in, you can tell that that one was yeah,
Oh,
it helped. It took my abuse. Let's just say that
it
until
did
it
take it. You know
overheated.
what? It did take the abuse. It
It took my abuse,
that I'll give it. That
which
I'll
is
give it.
amazing. That's all I want to say. I wanted to blow it up. That's what my quest was to show everybody. Hey, this thing will handle me. If it handles me, I'll send it a little bit longer.
He said, "I'm
It handled
happy."
me, and um, it made fun sounds. It made me smile, and uh, yeah, but it blew up. So, anyway, those transmissions are made out of glass. So soon, eventually, I'll be swapping it with something more robust, something that won't care if the temperature is a little hotter than usual, or if it's a little cooler than usual.
Mm.
So, but are Baja trucks worth it from the factory? Let's just say this. That depends on your budget. That
That
depends
does depend
on
on the budget,
that really
yes.
depends on that depends on someone's budget. That depends on what truck they're getting and
Mm-hmm.
how much they are getting it for. Like, for example, the other day I was scrolling through Marketplace, and we didn't say if it's a new Baja truck or if it's a used Baja type truck or
Mm-hmm.
off road variant. So if you're getting a used one, you can find some Raptors, especially first gen Raptors that came with the 5.4. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't make that much power, but hey, you still get a nice beefy truck. Or you can find the ones that came with the 6.2 Boss motor, which was like a dual overhead cam. I think single like
I forgot
three
they call
valve
that a
single overhead.
boss motor. I didn't know they called it a
Yeah,
boss motor.
and it was a six. It was their version of a 6.2, and it had overhead cams. And it's interesting, but never made ridiculous power numbers. Like some people, yeah, they add boost, forced induction, and they make some decent numbers, but nothing like a 5.50 Coyote motor.
Yeah.
Um, and they have some weaknesses, but other than that, they were a fairly good truck slash heavy duty truck motor. Like just kind of a lazy V8 that made torque. Um, did all right in the F-150, but I found one for $10,000 on Facebook Marketplace. So it's like, hmm, that's a pretty good deal for the type of truck you're getting.
Mm.
Now, you still got to factor in maintenance.
Yeah.
So, like, would it be worth it getting a newer truck? Probably so. Like, absolutely. Like, if you're spending anywhere between 40 and 50, you're probably still getting a bargain because by the time, just realistically, like how I see it, if you take an older truck like I am trying to do, and you're trying to make your own homemade, like, Baja slash trophy truck slash before the T Rex came out,
Yeah.
one of those type of trucks. But now T Rex is out, so now you kind of have an idea of what the model after. Um, you're gonna have to spend around the same amount of money because you're gonna have to modify suspension. Probably gonna require custom suspension because I mean, obviously, those trucks are a little wider from the factory. Granted, yeah, they might have just extended the control arms, some of the components just to handle the extra width, and that's something that I still have to explore. But there's definitely areas on the frame that they tweaked. They also use different rear ends sometimes, like they use a heavier duty rear end, maybe one out of 2500 series truck. Um, sometimes the frames on these trucks are reinforced, so
Oh, a lot. They're
you
beefed
you
up
end up,
like crazy.
yeah. So because they have to take jumps,
Yeah.
and I mean we've seen it happen with the first gen Raptor, where some of them kind of bent, snapped because they didn't really reinforce it, and so you kind of see where like that's where the money gets added. The money gets added into the suspension. The money's added into not even just the suspension, the motor. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I wanted to do the motor first on my truck before I did the suspension, the brakes, and everything else.
Yeah.
But it's like, would it have been cheaper to get a T Rex? Maybe not, but would have been more peace of mind, less crying at night, less blood, on everybody else's hands, and less swearing and cussing. Absolutely.
Well,
You get a turnkey
that
car
was
with
more
warranty.
me doing that, not you. You were just like, oh damn, I gotta order a part. Me, I'm over here like, shit.
Hey, hey, that's why I included. That's why I said on everybody's hands. He's
This
like, hey,
dude.
that's my.
That's my hands, yo. The heck? All the stupid little
Hey,
things I
hey,
had to do
hey,
for that engine to
hey.
fit. I mean,
You
granted,
know what?
it does fit well, but it's the fact that there was some. I'm like, really, they put a spacer ring for the flex plate. Really, they did this with the exhaust. Really, they did this with the manifold. Really, they did like there's a bunch of like.
Yeah,
I could see why like people would like to do it, but at the same time, I'm like, they do a bunch of little shit. To me, it was a mild engine swap because it fit. It was just you had to do extra stuff to make it fit
to
versus
make
just
it fit,
oh let me grab this motor and go cling like I could use a factory
like
wiring
a Honda
harness.
or like a Chevy,
Yeah, I could use like
like
that was yeah
like
it
take a
was it
4.8 out,
was
put a 5.3 or 6.0.
yeah it was similar in that sense because I could still use a factory wiring harness. I had to extend the throttle body actuator harness, but other than that everything like plugged in, all the spark work, it had the same firing order. Like it wasn't crazy in that sense, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like
Yeah,
I had to do a new harness or I had to do different pigtails or like I had to do custom fat manifold and all this other stuff. It was all relatively not bad. Like you could probably get away with the truck motor, the truck manifold, but you would have been choking it like crazy. So like
Yeah,
it was it was a bunch of
that was
that
the
stuff
main thing.
going on. So it wasn't bad.
Speaking of which,
It wasn't bad at all.
I still wish I got SRT8 Jeep manifolds because
Oh yeah.
supposedly they would fit better. They would fit better
Oh
because
yeah,
of
for
how the
sure.
Jeeps are designed. So that's still on my list of hey, I might still if I get them, I might take it
But
to the
then you
exhaust shop.
gotta
I'm like, hey,
yeah, you gotta get to it. You have to do a little different exhaust because it's tilted a different way, right? Or no?
I think on the left side it tilts down more versus how right now how since we use the car SRT manifold, it like just kind of shoots out.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
turns down, but
Me
yeah,
personally,
but like with those trucks, yeah, go
although Raptors are now more accessible and more affordable, I still want to get one. I just I've seen too many
I get
break.
that.
I guess I've worked on a
I
couple that broke,
understand where you're coming from.
and I'm just like, do I really want a Baja truck that breaks every time, and I gotta fix it while I'm doing Bajaing? You know, I'm not saying like
Found on road dead.
I'm still.
Sorry, Ford.
I'm not saying they're not a capable truck. They are definitely like suspension's fine, brakes are fine, the gearing's fine, like all that's fine. It's perfect. It's the engine that kind of kills it, which is why I kind of give the edge to the T-Rex. Although it came in later, it has more of a bulletproof design. Like even has the ZF trans, like stuff like that. So like it has more of a bulletproof design right out the gate. Um, the only thing
It take
about
more abuse.
the only thing about the Rams, I believe, is I think it's the transfer case of the rear diff. I forget which one. Like it's bad, but one
Both.
component I can just get built and swapped out versus I gotta do a sensor here, or I gotta figure out why it's giving me an electric gremlin here, or why like I'd rather deal with the Ram all day. But for $100,000, no, I'd rather go your
Mm.
route.
I'd rather build my own truck. By the time you build your own truck, you might only be in it for depending on how you want to do it. If you don't want all the power in the world, but you just want a capable beast,
Yeah,
you could probably get away with it for 20, 30,000. But if you want to
barely.
build the motor
Barely,
itself,
because you got that truck
exactly,
for
barely.
two, the engine for two, the parts were probably for. As far as the ballpark, you had to spend a lot more because you kept ordering other stuff and doing all this other BS with it. But if it wasn't for all those miscellaneous things, as far as engine package goes, I think you were in it 10 with the truck with a outsourced engine. That's not including suspension. So yeah, ballpark
15,
probably probably 20.
15
Prob
so far. So
yeah,
15, yeah.
but
Ballpark, you probably do it for 20, 25, 30. I think I
I
still
say
stand
25
under
the
30.
most. I say 25 the most. Cuz you got to let's say you could get a rear end, probably a Facebook Marketplace for $600 depending on where you're looking at. The trans, especially if you want to go 6 speed and do like an all-wheel drive thing, something like that, you can do that for
30.
an aftermarket shop could probably do 3,500 for a built trans like that, something like that. So like yeah, you're in it. I would say 25.
Yeah,
You had that expense because you ordered more stuff that we
30,
didn't use.
30,000.
He said 30.
I say
I say less than 25.
saying 30
I say less than
because
25, truck and
you
engine
still gotta
included.
spend labor, labor, custom, anything
Well,
making everything fit.
that's why it's building yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
So it
building it.
depends.
So okay,
It depends
building
on
it
how you go
yourself.
about it. Do you go to the shop and let them do it, or do you like a DIY thing, like you do your own thing?
30 if you're taking it to a shop. 20
If you're
if you're
doing it by
doing it
yourself.
yourself.
Okay, fair. I'll
The
give you
reason
that.
and the reason why I say that is you could definitely find a parts cheaper, make it work. You do it yourself, you save a lot of money on labor. But when you get into this custom work, it's gonna take a lot of custom thinking and hours. So yes, the shop or whoever you take it to might be able to do it, but you got to remember you got to factor in the hours of labor that they're placing in their time on making this work for you. So you got to factor that in. It's like where there might be days where it's like they spent 5 hours on a bolt because that bolt isn't supposed to be there,
Of
and they got to
course.
make it work somehow. So that's the only reason why I say 30 because some quotes were absurd. Let's just say that, and for what they would have done, you know that they wouldn't have done it. Let's say the way you perform the work, and it would have just been like they would just shoehorned it in there, and then yeah. who knows, wiring gremlins issues and stuff like that. So, and then I mean, well, what's another kind of Baja truck? What Ranger Raptor? Ranger Raptor is a much cheaper alternative. So, would I
Oh,
consider
I
that
forgot about
as
that.
a Baja truck? Yeah, I consider it as a Baja truck. So, like, if that's why, like now that the let's just say that the prices are getting cheaper only because now they're able to apply those packages to smaller trucks, not just the full size. Granted, a full size truck should never be $100,000. That's just a 1,500. I can at first I understood why 2,500s and 3,500s peaked at like 80, 90,000 because what they would do they work trucks, they work for years and years and years, and they usually get your return on investment on those 1,500 series trucks. I mean, these are usually just commuter trucks, regular trucks. So is it worth $100,000? No. Is it worth 60 all day? So if you find one used 60,000 with a warranty still, or with a little bit of warranty,
Mm,
grab it, snag it. 50, 60,000, snag it all day. But if you want to do it yourself, be
yeah.
prepared to spend maybe $20,000 less, save a little bit of money, have a nice, decent truck, but you might be chasing issues. Obviously, it's going to be custom, so you're not going to just take it down to Rick and he's just going to order a part from AutoZone and say you're good to go. No, you're going to be calling your vendor saying, "Hey, remember that custom control arm that cost me 1,500? I need you to make me another one." And you better hope that the price is still 1,500 because it might be $2,000 nowadays. The material costs just went up,
Yeah,
especially if they
material
got to import
costs,
it.
tariffs, all that stuff. Yeah, but
Like, especially though,
we're forgetting the question at hand though. Are factory Baja trucks worth the expense? We keep
if
we
it's a
could keep
Ranger
we could keep
Raptor,
ranting about the all the
Ranger
trucks at
Raptor,
hand.
Ranger Raptor, maybe so $60,000. You get you get it's not the biggest truck, not a full size, but it's kind of very capable. Yeah, maybe a Bronco Raptor. Okay, you get it, but is that really a truck? That's an SUV. So let's keep
So
it to the Ranger.
you know what? You know what? Let me reiterate this.
You want what? You want to make
Wh-
it full size trucks?
Where we know Baja trucks as V8 powered, crazy suspension traveling beast. So I think
How
the
dare
own
you? How dare you discredit the Raptor 3.5 tagline?
I'm not discrediting it. I won't discredit it only because it's in a full size truck. Well, I can't believe I'm saying that. I'm not discrediting that. I don't know why full size trucks is the actual trim nowadays, but um, what I'm saying is at least in that truck there's an option to put a V8 in it. You know what I'm saying? It's the Raptor R, whatever it may
Yeah,
be.
the Raptor R. Yeah,
So
yeah.
what I'm saying is
Stay listened.
like how you have your homemade V8 somewhat about to be Baja truck once you do the suspension and brakes. There's other variants like the T-Rex, like the Raptor, so on and so forth. So let's get back to it.
All
Factory
right.
Baja trucks. We know the V8, crazy suspension travel, good brakes, can go through anything and
Yes.
anywhere, have high clearances. Are they worth the expense
Watch
or
this. Watch this. Watch this. Yes.
oh,
I'm gonna
where
walk
is
back
he
in and tell you
going?
why.
Where is he going?
I'm gonna walk back in and tell you why. These trucks are worth it because you get a warranty. So if you break it, you take it back
And
to the
we're
dealership.
and we're back to
You
that
you
discussion.
you go down on a jump. Hey, man, my suspension bent in a little bit. Trucks doing one of these little Chevys on the highway now.
But guess what?
Take it into the dealership.
Guess
They're gonna cover that as long as you could
so.
prove that you didn't do anything wrong.
But that's the thing. They will throw that back at you, saying, "Yeah, you can do that with that, but you're not supposed to." We've seen these instances before with companies as large as that. So,
Yeah,
and then to the point where, yeah, it gets a warranty, more likely powertrain. But if you bend a suspension rod after going over a rock, you're on your own. That's not covered under warranty. So we're going.
you're
So
absolutely
back.
right.
So back to the
But
question at hand. Unless you're gonna blow up your engine, and if they see that there's no oil, they could probably be like, "Oh, you didn't take care of your truck. You know, this is customer pay. This isn't warranty." So back to the question at hand, because I've seen this before. Because I worked at Chrysler before. You know,
I know.
I
You
worked.
worked at it. It's only because I've seen some good stories from Ram owners on T Rex forums. They're like, They're like, hey, I just blew up this quick, suspension component going
And
on
they
road,
covered
taking
it,
it to the
yeah.
dealership, and they covered it.
That'll
But you
probably be
also
that'll
seen the
probably be
other
the
side where,
Ram will probably be the
yeah,
only one because it's like they cover the what is it, the Hellcat. That thing blows up, they're like, yeah, sure,
yeah,
fuck it, we'll throw it at I don't care.
yeah, they're like, yeah, the Rams one of the only brands. But like, yeah, if we're gonna say Ford is notorious for just being like, well,
Not our
you
fault.
shouldn't have taken the truck
Not
on
our
that
fault.
junk. Yeah, not
Exactly.
our fault. Not like
Exactly.
not a problem. Not a problem. So if you're saying it that way, I was kind of looking at it more. Obviously, I'm more
So then you're
guy.
back to the thing about
So
all right, now
what
you
are, is
want
a
to
okay? How about this? Is
okay.
a Raptor worth it? No, no, no. Unless it's a Raptor R, you better keep the miles off of it because it's a nice V8.
But
But
then like
if
what's
it's a
the
if
point?
it's a T Rex,
What's the point?
yes, a T Rex worth it all day because they usually cover your powertrain and the mechanics. Like they're like, hey, this shock isn't putting enough fluid in it. They're gonna cover it. They're gonna say, you know what, there's probably something wrong with it. It's probably a fault. They're gonna cover it. But are they worth it if you're gonna look at it as a whole market overall, like T Rex and Ram? I mean, sorry, T Rex, RHO. So we're not even gonna include RHO right now.
Yeah.
So T Rex and Raptor R. No, 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 not at all. Because you can build that truck significantly cheaper. You get the T Rex engine.
And
You can put the T Rex suspension on it. As we can see, it looks like people are building short cab versions of the T Rex. So it kind of, it kind of concludes my myth of, hey, these parts are the same. You know what I mean? Just different control arms. Maybe one's extended a couple inches, 3 or 4 inches on each side, and even the axles. So build your own truck cheaper. Like, in other words, if you have the money and you have the patience and time, go ahead and get the warranty. Get that new truck. Because guess what? Chances are, if you have the money, time, and patience, I'm sorry, chances are, if you have the money but not the time and patience,
yeah.
you're gonna love that new truck. If you have the time and patience, and you want to save money, and you enjoy cars, build your own truck. It'll be so much cheaper. You'll be happier with the outcome. And again, just remember, trucks are kind of like Hondas and Legos, like among most cars. And Honda's just the best example. But you can swap whatever you want into that truck. Doesn't matter what year. All you need is a computer in the interior, and you can shoehorn it in. You see with old body trucks like OBS, old Chevys, old Fords, and old
Yeah.
Dodges now.
Yeah.
You see them. They're putting all brand new interiors. All they're putting fourth gen, fifth gen, sixth gen
It's like a
versions of
full
their
resto
trucks.
mod in a sense.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you for summing up in one word. So I'm gonna let you take it from here because I've been rambling and
No,
going
that's
off
fine.
of these
No, that's
trucks.
fine.
But
All I just
I love trucks.
of course you
Love
love trucks. I mean I know it, but I'm pretty sure
them.
it's universal language with you. I don't
Trucks and big SUVs.
so
Yes.
back to what you were saying about like if you compare the market with Ram, the T-Rex versus T-Rex with the Raptor, it's not worth it, but with the Raptor R it could be. You're categorizing which truck will be worth it. I'm talking about Baja trucks as a whole. You get the T Rex, you get the Raptor RHO, you get the Raptor R, you get the Ranger Raptor, you get all these types of. You get, I mean, there's not a lot of trucks, but you get these four types of trucks.
And we might even be missing some, like I said, Bronco Raptor,
Yeah, you
the
because
Colorado ZR2, which isn't really a full Baja truck
Baja.
package, but it has Baja suspension. Silverado
So
ZR2.
so now you answered the question, but not really. Because so, how much are these trucks? We know the T Rex is 100 out the gate. Sometimes marked up to
Most
120
of them are all pushing well over 60, $70,000.
for sure.
So are they obtainable for most of us? Not really, because and especially it's not that they're not obtainable for us. Is it reasonable and logical to pay for a car like that in today's market? Absolutely not. So to stay on this question, no, it is not worth it to get those trucks right
So
now.
let me give you some
They are
numbers.
nice if you have the money.
Let me give you some numbers. The starting price for a 2024 is 79,975, and it could go up to 111,000. You're looking at near a six-figure car
Which
with
which which truck? All of them in general, pretty much, right?
2024 F-150 Raptor. The used
Yeah,
the
and you're getting, and then for the base model, you're only getting
the
the
average
V6.
price of a 2025 is 132. 2024 is 98, and 2023 is 81. You see what I'm saying?
Settled. Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Now, just shift my focus onto the Ford side, right? It's cheaper for you to build your own truck. Watch this. You don't get a 5.0 in a Raptor. So I would just buy a 5.0 work truck Ford, wide body defenders, and get a Raptor bed, get the Raptor suspension
Mm-hmm.
in arms, and slap it on there. And then a twin turbo the Coyote and have way more power than not only the twin turbo EcoBoost 3.5 V6,
Mm-hmm.
but way more power than the supercharged 5.2 liter V8.
Possibly, yeah.
So why not? I'd rather do that.
And
That's cheaper
here you
than
go.
me.
2024 Ram TRX, 96,000 to start, and it could go up to 120. You see, but like, I'm not saying it isn't worth it, but at the same time, for the money you're,
No, their prices went up. Let's just
if
say that
I'm paying, if I'm
their
paying
prices
all the
went up.
bells and whistles, $120,000, I'm getting a GTR. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm
When that Ram
f the
T Rex
off
came
road.
out,
I want to go fast now at this point.
when that T Rex came out, they were only 91,000, and I
Yes, they
remember
start off at
seeing them at the
91, but
dealership,
when you fully
and I
auctioned
remember.
it,
Well, that's the thing. They were these. Well, of course, these were early releases, and this was
hmm
back then before the market. They were like everything. This was like the, I forget what they call it, the first pack. Like they call it the first edition, or like they'll say this is the first one. They were only like 91, 92,000, and they had every option, if I recall. And then like yeah, later on, I know the prices went up on them. Like it's like all of a sudden they just, especially with dealer markup, and people were going in and buying them with the dealership markup. So I mean, a lot of this market. I mean, I know I'm going down another rabbit hole, but this market, I blame the people. I blame the people for not standing up and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to buy this car with a $40,000 markup." They're like, "I
exactly.
got it. I'll buy it." And then now we're seeing the results of the market from people saying, "Yeah, I got it. I don't care that there's a markup." But
I
so
dude,
again,
for the
to say
money,
that
mm-mm.
for the money, you're better off building your own truck. I'm gonna say it again because again, I'm gonna say strictly looking at the Ford side, you can't get a 5.0 in the Raptor, and if you can get a 5.0 in a Raptor, Ford would have the best Raptor lineup ever because wouldn't just be a two engine or one engine option that has been for years. It would be, hey, I can get this truck in any flavor that I want, 3.5, 5.0, or basically GT500 motor 5.2, or is it a 5.8 supercharged? I think it's a 5.8. It might be 5.8.
You know
But
what I,
anyways,
you know
you
what
get
I
the
do?
idea.
You know what I do? If I wanted like any Baja truck, I get like a, I get like a '03 Tacoma.
Tacoma. I know he's gonna say
I got
Tacoma.
a '03
And he's gonna
Tacoma.
convert it to a Baja. You just
Bro,
basically just make
2,700
your own truck.
pounds? Come on.
See, and that's why I said, are we considering this full size trucks? Because then I'm
So all
like, if
right,
that's the case,
but that's the thing. It's like that's what comes.
because even a
That's what comes
Ranger
with the
Raptor,
territory. That's the thing. These T
the,
Rexes, these Raptors, they are full size trucks. Unfortunately,
yeah, and I mean, but then now you got the Ranger Raptor, you got the Colorado ZR2 Bison, whatever, and
you know
then
what? To
and we're waiting on
you
Dodge.
know what? To stay modern, I would get a 2023 Tacoma.
I respect it. You know why I respect that? Because the Tacoma, even though I'm not gonna say they haven't updated. It's been updated heavily over
Now,
the years.
yeah.
It's still, it's still though. At the end of the day, it still shares a lot of its bare architecture with its predecessors. Like things got beefed up, geometry changed a little bit, but everything is still, frame, suspension, engine, exhaust. Like everything is still relatively simple. Like they only improved it. They didn't really like rework it all
Yeah.
together, if you will. Like they've
If I
always
was
said, okay,
if I
Tacoma
was
needs to
to
get a little bit
stay
bigger, a
if
little
I was
bigger.
to stay modern with the times and I was to finance, I would get a Tacoma, but I wouldn't get the newest one with the now 4 cylinder. I wouldn't mind it. Don't get me wrong. I just like the older look. I wouldn't mind the new LX. That would be nice, but I would get the V6 Tacoma, whatever it may be. Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of power, doesn't have a lot of torque. But if I'm really shooting for that, I'm swapping this engine out and I'm putting a VR38. I'm putting a Nissan Big Boy in there. I'm gonna still keep it
or
V6. I'm just
or
gonna do
UZ
twin turbo.
or UZ, or you
No,
could put a
no, I wouldn't
UR,
go
which is
UZ.
different.
No, I wouldn't go. As much as I wouldn't even go UR. I wouldn't even no. I would literally get a VR38 if I just want to just piss on them, right, right, and keep the
Hmm.
whole Japanese downsized engine type thing. Want to keep along the realms of
Yeah.
that, right? Yep, twin turbo V6 all day, all day. Putting that big boy right in there. It's the transfer the transfer case. The the front diff is floating. It's away from the engine, so I don't have to worry about that. The transmission is longitudinal. Don't have to worry about that. I just gotta put an adapter plate. Ding, done. And if I want
Yeah,
something
I guess
to
that's good.
hold the beef of it, I'll probably go your route and get a ZF or something along the lines of that. And
That'd
just
be a
make
nice
sure
truck,
it just
actually.
makes sure the transfer case lines up with the whichever the front diff is mounted, whether it be left or right. And I'm gonna call it a day. That's my Baja truck because it has so much
Same.
aftermarket parts for lifted suspension. It has so much aftermarket for oversized fenders. It has so much aftermarket for long travel suspension. It has all that. It has so much aftermarket for diff sizes because they don't have the regular pumpkin diff. They have the clamshell diff, which people are like, oh, clamshell they split. To me, it's stronger. I have yet to see a clamshell snap in half like I have seen a pumpkin. That's just me.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up because that's new to me. Like not new. Like not what you're saying is new. I'm saying clamshell diff. I'm like, oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
clearly
it's
it's a
when the
clamshell
diffs
for a
are
pumpkin.
bolted on like this.
Yeah,
Like so, one
I've seen
axle
that.
goes
That
this
now
way, one
it makes
axle
sense.
goes this way.
It makes sense. 'Cause I've seen it. I've seen it. And I'm like, why is it, I've always said, why does it look like that? But I always said, well, it's Toyota, so they do things sometimes differently because they're like, hey, if it works, it works. They're not gonna like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you see now that you say, look, if you're saying Tacoma, if we're gonna talk about non full size trucks, right? And this is the reason why I was kind of getting at
Well, that's technically
because
a
I
full
don't.
size truck, no? The 4 door?
Nah, Tacoma's mid-size. It's still
Really?
mid-size, but it's still a mid-size truck because the Tundra's full size. Tundra's there full size. I was
Oh,
gonna
I see
say
what you're saying.
if you were gonna say that, I was gonna say I wouldn't mind getting the Tundra
I'll get a
and
Tundra.
doing
I'll do a
off
Tundra.
road and doing the off road treatment because you know why? I've seen them do it. I've seen people do it. And here's the thing: the Tundra, I'm gonna consider it just like how Nissan, right? They both had big V8s. Like the Tundra has a 5.7, Nissan has a 5.6. I prefer to take a Toyota Tundra or a Nissan Titan because they both make about 400 horsepower, which is enough what you need in a truck,
Mm-hmm.
especially a 1500 series truck. You know what I mean? They make about the same power as the Rams, if not more, or around the same, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both more reliable. So both of those trucks, Toyota Tundra or Nissan Titan, would be way better Baja trucks than like a F one
Yeah.
fifty or Ram 1500.
So
And I'm not
I
including like yes
apologize.
a T Rex. I'm not including T Rex. I'm not including Raptor R or everything. I'm just saying like let's say you just took a regular F-150 the same way you're gonna take a regular Tundra or Titan or Ram, and you were to make them Baja trucks. The Japanese competitor series would be way better because they have definitely better aftermarket for pre-runner suspension and your results, you would have better results with those trucks because not only would they be reliable, but they make pretty decent power from the factory. So you're not going to be lacking or hunting for more power. You won't be the fastest, but you'll be able to get over those jumps
Of
and
course.
handle everything and basically turn your car off and turn it back on and be fine. So to sum it up, if we're gonna say, because now I want to make sure that I'm not including all the brands trucks. We're including Toyota, Nissan,
Mm-hmm.
Ford, Chevy, Dodge, and anybody else who wants to make a full size truck. It is cheaper to build your own Baja truck, or I want to call it a pre-runner build because some people might see pre-runner and understand it better. You see a
Mm.
pre-runner truck build or a trophy truck build, way easier to do it yourself, way cheaper because you're going to get the results you want when you buy these trucks from the factory. They're basically just
So
souped up
so then
factory
question
trucks.
question question question.
Hmm?
I understand that these Baja trucks in the factory are full size trucks. Do
Hmm.
you? What's wrong with me going with a Tacoma for a Baja truck when the manufacturer went with a full size truck? That was on them. They didn't have to choose to do a full size truck,
See,
but they
I'm
did.
glad you said that.
But they did.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If anything, you're using a better platform because it's lighter. It's going to be able to fly through the wind better. That's why when the Ford F-150 Raptor came out, I said, eh. But overseas, they had the Ranger. We finally got the Ranger here in the
Yeah.
U.S. So now that we have the Ranger Raptor, I think that's a better example
Because do
of
you
what a
remember
Raptor should be.
the first gen Raptors when they came with the split door before they went
Yeah,
fully full size? It's
yeah,
like
full size. They had the little half
they
door,
had the option. They had the half door, they had the full door, and then later on they just went full
full
size.
door,
You know what I'm saying?
because I think what the market shown, especially at that time, was more people bought the four door trucks, and I hate to say it because they became more of a status luxury symbol, and most people just wanted the space to put all their friends in it. You know what I mean? Versus like you've seen some people who bought the Raptors and used them what they were for, and most of the time they had it with the short back seat because they
Yeah.
just said, "Hey, I need a little space. I'm gonna take this thing off road. I'm gonna enjoy it." So these
Because
trucks have become more of
look
like,
how massive this Tundra is. Like it reminds you of the T Rex and all that stuff. These pre-runner
yes,
builds.
yes, yes, and that's the thing. That is the thing with these trucks. Like they're nice, but they're getting so big. So that's why I'm saying what I like a full size. That's why I've kind of been saying, would you consider like
I
a
wouldn't
Ranger
mind.
Raptor
I wouldn't mind getting
or
a
like
full
because I wouldn't mind a
size.
Tacoma. I like Tacomas. I like the Tacoma side. Like this, you see how big this is. It's like, is
Hmm.
this really gonna be good off road? No. Then you look at a Ram T Rex. It's massive. It's a behemoth. Look at the F-150 Raptor, the R. It's a behemoth. They're behemoths now. They're not as like nimble and easy to maneuver like they once were. They're getting bigger and bigger. They're getting bigger and badder. And don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
But sometimes you just want something simple that's gonna do the job. And that's why, like I said, I've gravitated more towards like the Ranger Raptor, the Bronco Raptor, because they're not as big. Or hell, even if Chrysler actually updated the suspension on the Jeep Wranglers,
Hmm.
I would take a Jeep Gladiator because you know what I mean. It's not as big as a Ram. It's not as wide. It's not as just in your face.
Yeah.
It's truck. And like I mean, look, for example, right? Tundras. I always laugh because the first gen Tundra was like first gen F-150. They were both like kind of seventh, eight trucks. Like they were big trucks, but they weren't big.
Yeah.
Now both of them, you look at the F-150 and the Tundra, they both grew to the size of like Super Duties,
Yeah, that's
of
crazy.
the era back then.
That's
And
crazy.
like Super Duties and 2500s now, like moves on the road. Like look at the Ranger Raptor. That's like just the same size like a Tacoma. That's
That's the
you know
more
what I mean. That's
comparable
what I
thing.
picture.
Yeah.
That's what I picture the right size Baja truck to be, like a Tacoma size, a Ranger Raptor. I never pictured seeing a 6,000 pound vehicle flying through the air.
But they
You know what I
do.
mean?
They
I
do it
pictured
well.
4,500
Like
pounds.
look at that.
I pictured, yeah.
They be flying.
That's the thing. They do be flying,
They be
and it's
flying.
all the suspension. And all I'm gonna say is, it's cheaper to build your own truck. If you are someone who has the money to go get one of these, live your life and do it. Because, what a time to be alive that you can get this from the factory with warranty versus, you do it yourself. Something breaks, you're calling the manufacturer or whoever you got it from, like, I need another one of these. Please make another custom part. This, at least, chances are, hey, I was
Chances
just
are they
driving down the
have it.
grocery store.
I get you.
Yeah, and you're just like, hey, I just drove down the grocery store and this snap. Meanwhile, you were just on the Baja Trail, Baja Trail 1000, going through dunes and whatever, trying to beat your high score.
Beat your
Then
high
you just
score.
tow it to a supermarket, tow it to like a Stop and Shop, Market Basket, a Publix, whatever your favorite supermarket is, Whole Foods. Let it sit there and say, hey, I was leaving the parking lot and the control arm snapped. They're like, what?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yes, and these are the kits right here, long travel kits. This is why I want to build a pre-runner. Usually, you can find these for all sorts of trucks, Chevys, Toyotas,
They got some nice
especially the
reinforcements
Toyota
here.
Tundras. You could find a lot of this for the Toyota Tundras, Toyota Tacomas, Nissan Titans, Nissan Frontiers, um, the Ford Rangers. You can find it for the F-150s most majority of the years because for some reason they have a lot of support. Rams, not as much, not until like really the fourth gen, fifth gen. You see a lot of support for the Rams.
Mm.
You see some a little bit for the early third gens like I have. They're starting to build up aftermarket because people are starting to like Rams. Chevys, you can find a whole bunch of stuff for the Chevys.
Yeah, they
Like,
have a
you know what I
huge.
mean?
The
Like you see
trucks
them,
do have a huge aftermarket. I do give it that. They have such a
and that's the
huge
thing. Like,
aftermarket.
and I'm gonna say this. You're gonna like this. Thanks to trucks like the Tacoma that made like the truck available for everybody.
Pretty much,
Yes,
yeah.
I said it.
Tundra
They
too.
made an affordable truck. The Tundra too, but the Tacoma was like I want
Tacoma
to say
was
it
the
was that truck
stamp.
that
Was like the stamp. Like, yo, you
yeah,
could
like
get this for this.
yeah, and it's like you didn't need a full size truck, but you needed a truck that did truck things, still went off road, still held you down.
Hmm.
And I'll be honest, because of the Tacoma and trucks like the Ranger too. Let me not knock the Ranger
No, I won't
and like
knock the
the
Ranger.
S10 and like the S10 and stuff like that. These type of trucks have made and built a super duper big like off road aftermarket support. See, I'm surprised.
They even
Right?
have
I
the
just noticed
Lexus
they have
GX
Nissan.
470 and 460.
I just noticed. You know what they don't have up here?
Nissan, they have it. Titan,
No, they
Xterra, and
do, but they don't
Frontier.
have. Yeah, I was gonna say they don't have like the Armada and Sequoia for Toyota. Like they don't have the Toyota Sequoia, and they don't have the Nissan Armada. I guess because they're too big.
The GX
But
the GX 470 is basically a Sequoia. Basically.
basically, but I do know. But I do know. I know the GX shared more with the Forerunner though.
Hmm.
But then the Sequoia is just like a larger Forerunner,
Pretty much.
essentially, like blown up. But yeah, and the one thing is I know like yeah, like there's so many performance goodies for these cars. And I did find some like I know like I could use the front half of the Nissan Titan suspension, and then I'd have to do the custom for the rear. But there's a company that I already found that does custom rear control arms for the Nissan Patrols and QX80. So I'll look at them. Yeah,
Look
like
at
see,
that.
come on, look
These
at that.
Baja kits. Look at that. Whole company
Exactly, look
based
at that.
on Baja.
Yep, and that's exactly what I was talking about. You just get these extended control arms. Now, basically, you get to still use your factory knuckles.
Oh, they have
Some
they
companies
have the
make it
Helix in here
also.
too in Land Cruiser.
Yeah. And like, some companies, believe it or not, actually make custom knuckles for your application.
Yeah,
So it's like
Dirt
you're
DK
covered.
makes them right here. Look. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, bolt onto
And,
the
and I was
factory
actually looking
housing.
at some of those. See, that's funny. And I don't. They used to have stuff up there for the Nissan Patrol. I don't see anything. But I probably was not looking at the U.S. website.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's amazing, and that's what I mean. It's cheaper for you to build your own truck. Now, yeah, that's just the suspension. You still got to consider, getting in the line, tires,
Of
your setup,
course.
rear end, everything. So, yes, it can get costly real quick, but you would have more fun knowing that you took your truck that was already capable and hold you down, and you're basically just reinforcing and making it stronger. That's all.
Yeah. All this custom stuff. We're right on to the next custom topic. Do
But
you, as far as what do you think about what is it? The M's of BMW M, the AMGs and stuff like that.
what do I think of them?
Yeah.
I honestly think they're fantastic cars. Like okay, like I like how last time we discussed it. What do you think about M? M is the supposed to be like the race car variant of
Uh-huh.
BMW, like where like AMG was always supposed to be that race. I'm not gonna say race car, but it was like the overly done, like the souped up version of the Mercedes Benz. Like AMG, I think years ago, right when they first started, AMG didn't only just work on
No, they were
Mercedes
a
Benz.
subsidiary company. Like they were their own thing, making performance parts, making performance Mercedes,
Yeah,
and then
because if I believe they had an AMG Mitsubishi, they had an AMG. I can't remember. They had a few other bespoke AMG cars that weren't just Mercedes Benz. And then
yeah,
Mercedes Benz liked the work they did and said, you know, we're gonna bring you on board, but you'll still be your own thing, but you know, you're not with us. And
and then they were
I kind of
eventually
like
bought
how,
out entirely.
yeah, exactly. Like, actually, you know, we'll own you instead. Come on, just come over here. But like,
Pretty much.
yeah, so I like how you know AMG and M basically make bespoke race cars or basically street legal supercars in a sense. You know what I mean? Like,
Of
especially
course.
at that time, like a cop car wasn't going to catch an AMG or a certain M models. The same way, like we see today with you know people out running cop cars with Hellcats or like even back then like little Infinities. You know,
Well, they're always gonna
those
outrun
cars.
cop cars, in my opinion, because they're always capped out at 140 miles an hour. So it's not. It's their fault, really, to be honest.
Mm-hmm, it's true.
Like my
It's
Neon could
true.
reach 160. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. It's true. It's true. Exactly. That is true. So it's like they make good cars. They make good race, you know, like ready, fun cars that you can take
Yeah.
down to a track or you have fun on the street. So if I was gonna get a Benz or a Beamer,
Mm-hmm.
those are always the two models I look for, an M or AMG. Like I really don't look to waste my time with the regular base models anymore because you know what I mean, come on, if you're getting one of those cars, you really want the creme de la creme.
Now, now, would you say they are let's say, how do I say this? Would you say they are one of the only options as far as affordable sports or performance vehicles? And they can't. Do you think they could be topped by other brands in Europe, let alone probably other brands around the world? Or is it the fact that like the U.S. is too focused on the drag strip and the Japanese are focused on downsizing and more what is it? More turnability, more rally focused style cars to the point where like the Europeans are like the best of both. They can go fast in the straight in the autobahns, but they can also turn
I
really
get what
well
you're saying.
and all that types of
I
sense.
like what you're
Are they
saying
in
there.
their own
Well,
category and no one else can compete with like the M3, M4, or the C63 and the
can we include the RS?
yeah, we could look at RS like the RS5 and stuff like that. Although Audi for some
Okay.
reason has been out of it, and it's always a BMW
Yeah,
versus
they've always
Mercedes
been
thing.
yeah. Mercedes, BMWs up here, Audi's all Audi. I mean, at one point they were at the same level, but then it was only for a
Audi's
little bit, and then they
Audi's
just
up there. Don't get me wrong, but for some reason it's BMW versus Mercedes, not the big three. I just don't understand why that market shifted like that. But would you consider that like the best up performance cars as what we can get today?
yes. Honestly, honestly, I've had this opinion for a while. Yes, it's pretty much the best you can get of everything because think about it. I mean, you can get an M4, M3, handles like a beast. Hell, you might even want to challenge a Porsche 911 around the track with one of those cars. You want to drift? Should both the
Porsche's
Benzes
own
and the
category. What?
BMWs. It's its own category, but at least you can get like a Beamer that'll you know kind of handle it, stay with it on the track at least.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or you mean hell, you can even still get a Mercedes, but you're gonna spend a little bit more money for that SLS. I forget what the exact name of it is, but
Like
that
the
nice two door.
C63 or the GT or stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the GT, or yeah, C63 Black Series. So like, you can spend the money and get a nice Benz that like handle just as well. But then if you really want to drift it, now most of the new ones, Beamers and Benzes, they got drift mode or the transfer
Mm-hmm.
case that you can disable and deactivate the front drive shaft, so you can say, "Oh, I want to drift today, guys,"
Click.
and start sliding around. So it's like you kind of get the best of everything, and then you're also getting these engines that produce a stopping amount of power. Like like gobs of them, like gobs. Like, you're like, okay, straight six. Yeah, makes about 500-600.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Back then, 500-600 didn't seem like much, but it's a
Back then,
lot when
five
you
six
look at the
hundred was
weight
a
of the
lot.
car.
Five six
But
hundred was a
exactly, I was
lot.
gonna say back then was a lot. I don't. People today think that you need 900, 1,000. You really don't. You only need 500, 600, 700 maybe. Hellcats only need 700 because they're so heavy. If that Beamer had 700 or a Q50 or a Toyota, well, okay, I'm not gonna say Toyota Supra because it's really BMW,
Mm.
but I'll still say it. If a Toyota Supra had like 400, 500, 600, all these cars would fly past the Hellcat
Mm.
because they're that much lighter. So, do the Germans have the best of the best right now? They give you the best bang for your buck because I mean, damn, we thought Dodge was great when they started putting in the Hellcat and everything, but for years, BMW and AMG and Benz, you know what I mean? All their models always got a M or AMG variant almost. Like
Yeah.
even their CLA gets a AMG variant. Then you get a C class AMG. You can get a B class, which I don't think we get here, but if they did, they probably had an AMG. You can get an A class with an AMG. You can get an M. Well, now it's the GLE or GLC or the
Yeah. The
GLS.
ML or
You get
whatever, maybe.
all of
Yeah.
those. Yeah, you can get all of those as an AMG. BMW, same thing. You get an X5M, X3M, X3M competition, M4, M3, M2, 1 Series, M Sport, whatever. You can get an X7 with the M Sport. It might not be a full M, but it's an M implied. So you can kind of get every single version of their car as a performance version that
Mm-hmm.
has been almost reworked over.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they didn't think about it after. So let's just add this model. They're like, we make this car. There's going to be an M. There's going to be the base models, and then there's going to be the in betweens. It's like,
Yeah.
and they do that with all their cars.
Like the
So
M340s,
they
the
right now have the best.
C43s, and shit like that.
Yeah. So you don't have to get
The
the top of the line.
S4s, the S5s, between the A4s and the RSs, and yeah, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. Or like the AMG 4 3s versus the 6 3s. Like you kind of they give you this lineup that has so much range. So there's pretty much a car for everybody. There's cars for the people who really want to go fast, who are real performance fanatics. There's the cars for people who want a daily driver that has some performance.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the cars for the people who just want a daily driver that's really nice.
Yeah, because the only other car that did or did kind of step up to the challenge, besides having like economical, let's say, variant, is the GTR, obviously. But now that the GTR is dead, now,
Yeah.
and they stopped taking orders
Yeah.
officially last month, it's like,
And I know people are gonna rag on me on this, but yeah, like if I want to say GTR because you can almost say, well, if you didn't want a GTR Hounds, get a Q50 or a Q60 coupe, like you know what I mean? It's like
but they're discontinued
you're
too. They're
getting
done.
that, and those got discontinued. So it's like you're basically getting the lower version, much lower spec because GTR became, especially R35 became like a Halo thing, and like before either got an R34 and it was R34 GTR, or you just got a Skyline GTT or GTS or GT, which basically was like a Q50, Q60, G35, G37.
Mm.
And then the R34 was like, hey, let's put all of our best goodies. Yeah, it's the same car, but let's put our best goodies and the best motors that we have in it to make sure it performs. So, does anybody else really have anything else to compete with that lineup? The
I'll
Americans really don't.
I
You
will
know?
say this, and unfortunately, it's because I work for the company. If Alpha made a coupe, like a Giulia quad coupe, and put another
Mm-hmm.
50 more horsepower, I think it will come. I think it will start spanking the M3, M4 around.
Hmm.
That's my hot take on it. Like, I get it. The M4 right now is it's like the best of everything right now, like the pinnacle. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
especially for what you get. And the only reason why Alpha doesn't have anything like that besides a new 33 Shadali, which you have to pay a certain amount of money for, but you get a coupe, You get the that twin turbo V6 and all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
I think if they made a quad coupe, something along the lines of this, they would finally like step up to the challenge and actually challenge BMW, be the Italian variant basically, and challenge these companies. Cause like, what does Maserati have that competes with them well? Not a lot anymore. The
Yeah,
MC20,
no,
yeah,
no.
you have to have a certain amount of money.
Gran Turismo, coupe.
Yeah, you gotta wait 3 years till they depreciate at $30,000.
Yeah.
Like right out the gate, we're
Um,
talking about like we know you can buy a brand new M3 M4 for depending on the obviously the options and if you get a competition stuff like that. Let's say starting price I believe is 70,000, 70, 75. Let's say the quad right out the gate is 90 brand new for some odd reason. I don't understand why.
it's Italian.
Nah, I still don't understand because they literally wait 4 years, they go right down to 30, and you're in the ballpark with the F80 M3 and F82 M4. But
I want to say one thing. It's because with an Alpha, you're paying for the uniqueness, the design, and to be that man who has that car that's brand new. Like
but
you're
it
almost
has
paying
too
to
much
show that you
potential to
have.
be all that. It has potential to be better for far less. You still have electrical gremlins. You still have battery fucking shortage
Yeah,
issues because these electrical gremlins they're revolved around the battery. Once the battery shits the bed, then you're throwing every coal left, right, and center. At least BMW doesn't have these. Although they did have electrical gremlin issues, they don't have them like Alpha does, like the Italian variant. So stop fucking putting your pride pants on and actually make like they did beat the F80 M3 at the time with what they built with the Giulia Quadrifoglio. They did beat them at a time, and then they created the G80 and that smacked this, and they just stayed building this, and it's like why not build a coupe? Why not build something to give everyone a run for their money again? They just built this once and that was
see,
it.
I don't know if Stellantis has any more money. They probably do,
They
but
do. Alpha has money.
they just don't
Alpha
want to.
has money.
So I want to say that they don't want to build this car, or they're either going to give us an updated variant because I believe, if I recall reading an article years ago, they made
Well,
this car and then they were going to make it an EV. But now we know EVs.
get them out of here.
So what
Get
should
them out.
happen is what should happen is we may see them actually do exactly what you're saying, where they finally say, you know what, let's make a more powerful, potent version of this car, and we'll also maybe make a coupe, or maybe we'll give them, you know, another model. That's what's gonna happen. But as of right now, they, you know, they
But
they
like,
they really want to do it.
imagine it being lighter. It being a coupe alone. Just that alone. Like this
That'll
will
help
be
a lot.
ridiculous. Let it boast like a couple hundred, like 100 more horsepower. Let's say get it up to 605 horsepower. Let's say get it up there. Like,
Can it
come
handle
on.
it?
It will handle well. Like, come on. Like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why they can't do something like that. They built the GTA M. They built the GTA. Like, they built all these variants. And it's just like, okay. Like, why not? That's crazy. Fucking. But why not build something like this? That's what I don't understand.
I think what it is they have to read the market, and like
This is the
here's the thing:
market, though.
the M4 is selling, but most coupes weren't selling for a
That's
while. Like
because
even
that's
I
because it's
think,
a die-hard BMW, like, you know.
yeah, because I wanted to say, like, I know Infinity had the Q60 and they had the G37 coupe. They
Uh-huh.
decided to axe it because coupes weren't really selling. I know Lexus still makes the RC coupe, but I don't know if they even plan on really making a new model because I know coupes sell,
Well,
but
they're making a new
their
roadster that's a
market
coupe.
died.
They're making a new roadster that's a coupe, so they're still building coupes.
Well, well, when we're not gonna consider the GR GT3 or the Lexus new Roadster regular coupe. That's gonna be a super coupe. Okay, those are super coupes. Thank you. Those are gonna be super coupes. I can't wait for them to come out.
It's still a sports car.
Yes. Those are gonna
With
be nice super coupes. Those are gonna be coupes that are meant to come out and smack everybody around because
well,
they
they
already put the GT3 in the name. They were like, this is gonna be the GR GT3 Toyota, and then Lexus is gonna get a twin turbo V8. So it's gonna be what, maybe like a Grand Tour version. Man, like guess what, Lexus, you want me to jump back to your side? I'm jumping back. All right, listen,
yeah,
you
this is
didn't have to make
the
it hard
test
for me.
photos right
You
here.
didn't you didn't make it hard for me. Look, that when I look at this photo right here, you know what I see behind the scenes? It reminds me of Mercedes Benz
The
GT
AMG
63
GT,
or
the
the
AMG
the
GT,
AMG. Like that's
all
what I
day.
look at when I see it. I see the proportions. I see, guess what, the next car. That if I always told myself I'd never finance a car, but this would make me break my car in the sin.
He said, "I'll
This right
never
here
do
would.
it, but if I ever have to, if
This would
they
be it.
if they
Uh,
built a GT3 road car, I'm getting one like
yeah,
this, like
like for
RC,
example,
like
if
a
the
final
RCF
send off.
if the RCF looked like this more, right? Like for example, I don't know, just had that look, I would probably consider it more. And yes, it already kind of does, but like you get what I'm saying. If it came from the factory looking more like a race car rather than more like boy racer, all day.
I still don't mind it. Boy racer look ish. I don't
I don't
mind it
I don't mind the boy racer
because
look. It's just that
this is like wildly like GT3. Like as much as I like to
I
see it,
just
that's too wild.
there's just something about the headlights I need to change. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
maybe
On the
like the
RC, I don't know.
new.
There's something like I want to change it with IS. Like the new IS 500 headlights or the IS.
Oh, they did do a new RCF with the new headlights, but they didn't do the GT3 because it just works. They just keep making
Yeah,
refinements, and this is a
yeah,
full carbon
exactly.
carb at this point.
Yeah,
But
and
like,
plus, why are they? Who cares about headlights when
but
they're
like,
winning races?
imagine this that goes against the G82 M4, which we all know what the GT3 version looks like, and then having a coupe and then building a GT3. Like
Lexus
all these
LF
coupes can go at it. Like, hold on, AMG GT. This is
and
the
the
new.
Lexus LFR.
Like this is the there's a new one now. There's a new AMG GT, but just even looking at the old one, or even let's say
Yeah,
GTR,
yeah. No, you can see it. You can just see.
and they use this for racing too. So imagine this. This is like obviously the Lexus that they're more likely coming out with, the G82
Hmm.
that they already built the race car with, and a Alpha Quad, coupe.
I still wish Lexus never ruined bastardized the SC name. You know what I mean? With that little SC 430. It was cool. Don't get me wrong. It's still cool, but like,
Whatever. All I'm saying is, if the German brands are doing it so well, even the Japanese are going back to doing it because Toyota. But why not? The Italians. Yeah, they do have Ferrari. Yeah, they do have Lamborghini. The Ferrari 296 GTB is, to me, was killing it last year, and it's probably going to kill it again this year. But I don't consider those are cars that are in the 300 to $200,000 marker. Like, I'm talking about the cars that are under sub 100. Yes, the GT is an exception. No, actually, no. The GTs you could get for less than 100,000, but the GTRs and the GT Black Series and all that stuff, you do have to pay a pretty penny
yeah.
for. But the Lexus RC, you get under 100,000. The G82
Uh,
M4,
I have a
not even
feeling the LFR is going to be over 100,000. Unfortunately,
it probably will be,
but I wouldn't be
and it would
surprised.
suck. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
we still get the RC, and that's still under that. So it's like it's not far off. All I'm saying is Alpha can do a coupe. I want to see them do a coupe, and I feel like if they do a coupe
Yeah.
and they bump the power, they will beat the M4 and a lot of other brands, even the Audi RS5. They do have
Yeah.
a GT version of it. It's not far off. I mean, why? Oh, there you go, coupe. They do have a coupe version of this,
Yeah. Don't. Yes. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll explain. back then the RS5 and Audi 5 A5 was a coupe, and then they decided to make it this A7 looking thing because the A7 was like
But
this
then
four
look at the
door coupe. So they
DTM.
said, let's make the A5 a four door coupe. And yeah,
But look at the
but
DTM.
yeah,
It's not just the
yeah.
RS5 DTM. The M4 DTM. You know, we got this still.
But
We
see,
got.
that's the thing. That's the thing. It's tough for everybody else because BMW is known to want to race. Like BMW's like synonymous with racing. You know what I mean? BMW is almost like a race car brand. Like Porsche is known for race cars.
True.
Where everybody else, I feel like they want to make a race car. They want, but they know like if they want to beat BMW, it's going to take a lot of R&D and a lot of money. And I think a lot of them just don't want to fail at trying to beat them. Like I mean, look at Toyota. Toyota said we can't beat them. Let's just join them.
Yeah, it's just 'cause they didn't want to do the. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But guess what? But guess what? Toyota's not gonna say, thanks for letting us see what you did here. We're gonna build our own thing, and now we're gonna basically kind of the same concept like I, which is why I like the Japanese manufacturers. Same concept like the Toyotas. You know, they said, hey, nice car. Let us build a car that we feel like people would want to drive, like the LFA. You know what I mean? Like you hear them say all the time. They wanted to build a car for the people and show them this is the peak and the epitome
They
of
wanted
engineering
they
here.
wanted to build a car for engineers.
Yes, they wanted
Pe-
to show their engineering prowess.
Pretty
You know,
much.
they wanted to show their engineering feat. They wanted to show how greatly they could engineer a car, and nobody's gonna argue with them and say that they didn't engineer that car well because there's not really many complaints with it. Obviously, unfortunately, yes, it came out later, so it almost seems like another one of those unsung, you know,
Heroes.
those heroes that like, you know, it's like, hey, I finally get to meet my hero, but it's not the best hero anymore. But guess what? It's still heroic. It's still when it came out, it was still legendary. It's still legendary to this day because nobody else has made a V10 that sounds just like that from the factory. So they're in their own world.
Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing with the Porsche, right? You know, okay, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
the
yeah. You see, they all got
the Audi
GT3.
R8 is probably the only GT3 because the RS5 is a DTM car. It's like a Group 2 car. But it's like you get
So
the
they use the
idea.
R8 for GT3.
Yeah, they use the RS5 for the GT2, the Group 2 racing.
So that's kind of funny that they just pick the best. See, they just pick whatever car they want and say this is gonna be our GT3 car.
But it's wild. It's like the Italian. If you're going Italian, you go in Premier. You can even get like an Alpha, which is the more affordable. Which is what I don't understand.
Um, I get it. I get it because Alfa. Then what other Italian brand is there really? I mean, don't say Fiat. Fiat makes the Kano car, so like they're gonna say that. If Fiat is like the BMW's
The
mini line,
Abarth
you
Spider.
know what I mean? Like that's like BMW's mini line. You know what I mean? Like BMW, like they make their nice cars and they have Mini Cooper to put like their little four cylinder front wheel drive, test out that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
niche. And then so Fiat is like kind of Alpha's, you know, mini. They're just like, hey, I borrow a three cylinder little turbocharged thing, go fly down the road and then, you know, have fun with it. Or, you know, you get an Alpha, it's a little bit more premium. I agree with you though. If they want Alpha to succeed in the US, especially since they just returned it back here,
Hmm.
they need to increase the models. They need because that's what the thing about the U.S. We like options, and that's the thing. That's ultimately, if you have more options, more likely people will buy your cars, and that's just the weird thing about the U.S. market. That's something that I'm starting to see. You give the people options, like you said. You said this perfectly when we were talking about the whole thing with the V8 and Dodge removing it, while Ford kept it. You see so many people driving Fords. Why? Because Ford gives you options. Hey, you want a 2.7 to EcoBoost? You want a 3.5? You want a 3.0? You want a 5.0?
You want a
You want a
5.2?
6.3? You want a 6 point? You want a 6.8? Or do you want a 7.3 V8? Like this, or do you want a 5.2 V8? Or do you want a 5.8 supercharged? Like they have so many engine options, and yes, I know this. They're not all in each and every single car in their lineup,
Yeah.
but you get the idea. They have so many different engine lineups. Where I'm a rag on Infinity. Infinity only had one engine lineup for years. a VQ motor, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually they got, okay, they had a V8 too, but nobody really cared for the V8 because it wasn't like spectacular until like more recently, and even then, it never broke any records and never, did anything. It never did anything that made people say, "I want that." So they really only had two engine choices until they got a Mercedes four cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
Then they canceled that and put their bullshit four cylinder in it, which is a variable compression 2.0. So like, do they really have any engines? They only had three engines. That's terrible for a manufacturer. Like what? There's no choices. There's no performance engine choice. Oh yeah, you can get the same engine just with an extra intercooler and hopped up with a different tune.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't cut it. Audi, you know what I mean? Audi has some choices. They had a 2.0, they had a V6, they had a V8. At least that's just and then they had a V10. So they had hierarchy at least. You know what I mean? The smaller cars got the smaller engines, and then you know the S models or RS models got a modified version of the bigger engine that came in the base model of the next car.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they did it. Or they inside Audi, let me put some respect on your name. You also have the five cylinder, the
Yes, they
legendary
do.
five cylinder.
They do. They have the
So,
five cylinder, the
so,
V8, the V6, the V10, which
so
is now
they had
being
choices.
axed. Yeah.
They had choices. Mercedes, same thing. Like Mercedes, like don't get me wrong, Mercedes and BMW both trimmed the fat on their lineup, but they have some very spectacular engine choices now. Like you can get this regular lowly engine now that's very capable in the BMW. You know what I mean? Now
Mm-hmm.
they don't bother even selling naturally aspirated regular models. They just sell a B58 and say, "Here you go, B58 for you, B58 for you, B58 for you." Now everybody's rolling on the street, terrorizing the streets. Where you used to see people do that in Q50s until they realize, hey, the B58 is just that much better.
I see what
So,
you're saying.
like
I
it's just that it's that new tuner car.
I feel as if Alpha has more potential, and although they're only limited to the 2 liter and the 2.9 V6, if they just fix their electrical gremlins and make a coupe, like the engine's not all that bad. It's usually the software that kind of kills these cars or the electronics.
Yeah,
The engine is like they can
because they
rework the
use
2 liter
Dodge.
because the 2 liter is kind of annoying to deal with the whole multi-air bullshit. But the
Mm.
2.9 is probably the only exception because it actually is a it was built by fucking Gian Privetti, fucking the dude that built the F154, the twin turbo V8 for Ferrari. He kind of knows what he's
Yeah.
doing when he built the V6. So I do like
Mm-hmm.
I do like that. Could he build another engine? No, because now he works for Alpine, French company. So
Well,
what I will say is
he's in
they could
BMW now.
well, maybe what I'll say is they could build a coupe. They should. Why they not? I have no idea.
It's Alpina, sorry. No.
Yeah, Alpine. They could build a
Hmm.
coupe. I want to see them build a coupe, and I want them to throw a little more power to compete with the new M4, so that way they're not out of options. You get a two-door Giulia, you got a four-door Giulia, and then you get obviously the Stelvio, and now you got the Tonale, which is their only hybrid version, where you could get a hybrid or a regular gas-powered engine. I want to see the brand grow. You can't you can't bring
I like
Alpha
that.
to
I
the
like
U
what you just said.
you can't bring
I like
Alpha
that.
to the US and be like standstill. That's the way I look at it.
No, you can't do that. You can't do that because they don't have any options, and that's why, like, as much as I like the Alpha, like they make some nice, beautiful looking cars,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no option. Like you literally only have the sedan. You got the SUV. Then they even have another SUV. I think that's like a little smaller, or I might be getting that confused with the Maserati
Sure.
and the other. Like they all got like these. They have these twins. Like they got they have these SUVs, trio twin triplets that just drive around. They all look the same, but they all have a different badge.
Of course.
And I think they started focusing too heavily on SUVs versus, understanding that yes, the market at one point definitely shifted towards SUVs, and everybody and their mom wanted an SUV, which is why like I like it. Market's good for me because now we have all these fast SUVs, which
I hate it, but
still,
it is
like you
what it
said,
is.
they might not be as practical. Yes, I get what you're gonna say. They're not practical to go around the track. If it's supposed to be a fast car, or you know what I mean, it's supposed to be a sports car. It's supposed to go around. It's supposed to be able to take turns.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, we're in the world where I like it. We got sports SUVs. They go fast in a straight line. and they can take some turns. Not hard corners, but they take some turns. Um, they don't have. They focus too much on SUVs. They didn't. They basically lost their focus on the sedan. BMW came up the gate swinging, basically, and reinvented the whole sports car lineup. Because for a while, I mean, you only really seen what, like I said, you really seen a lot of Q50s at one point running around. Because that was like the only twin turbo V6 that was like cheap for
Yeah,
a while
of course.
until the B58. Yeah, you can get a BMW, but they had issues at the time. Then the B58 came out, and it was like, wow, this thing didn't break down yet. And everybody's like, it still hasn't broke down yet.
Of course.
So now everybody's like, yeah, get a B58. So now like B58 is actually good. So and then all the shortcomings of the Q50's VR30 started to be exposed. So it's like I'll just deal with a B58 instead of a Q50's VR30 motor because it's not even as prolific or as legendary as the VR38. It's literally like a weaker watered, not just watered down, this much water. They've added that much water and watered it down, and then basically said, "Hey, here's your production, V6. Yeah, it makes 400 horsepower. Yeah, you can make that 800, 900, or 700, but it's a ticking time bomb. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Might blow up. Might work. Can't trim transmission either. At least you get a BMW. Literally. Hey, hey, mom, I just bought a 340i. Yeah, nice car. Then little does the family know you're like, I'm gonna tune it. I'll put the exhaust. I'm
Down
gonna get a
pipes in
new
the
intake,
tune.
a new downpipe, and then now guess what? Oh, you thought I made only 340 horsepower? BMW's known to derate their engines? No, I'm probably making closer to 500.
Of course.
Don't tell
Of course.
nobody. So yeah, so that's why. But like to go back, I'm hoping. And I know I ragged on Lexus, in some of my other discussions, but I'm sorry, but Lexus, at least thank you for giving us a 5.0 V8. Thank you. Like at least you gave us. Yes, I always rag on Toyota for just giving us the cars, but at least your 3.5 liter V6, you never branded it as anything special, but we all
Yeah.
know it's a capable motor. We just know that with the right hands and the right aftermarket, the right touches on it, the right engineer,
That
the right
2GR,
mechanic,
yeah.
it can sing, it can do a lot. And then we know that the 5.0 has a lot of untapped potential. I'm just gonna say
You
it's
know
a
what?
Toyota
You know
motor.
what? I feel as if the 2GR only got its hype because not only because of it being an Lexus and we got things like R supercharging and shit like that, but it's because it was in a Lotus. They had
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
once they chose them, the reliability just spiked, and it was a matter of making a lightweight car. So you got a lightweight car with a reliable drivetrain power plant, and all they did was throw a supercharger on it. Like you could, that's a good ass car.
exactly.
And I
And then
feel,
think
and
about it. Same with the four cylinder
what pisses me off is Toyota could have done that from the beginning,
from the factory.
from
You
the
gave us a
factory.
supercharged Camry. Like for example, when Buick Grand Nat sorry, not Buick Grand Nat, sorry. When Buick Regals, Pontiac Grand Prix, um, Buick LeSabres,
Mm,
Pontiac Bonnevilles, everything with the 3800 V6 that was going around, Toyota could have said, hold my beer. And like in '07, '08, could have said, let's show the Americans how it's really done to make a front wheel drive supercharged V6. You know what I mean? And make it fly. They could have gave Camrys 400 horsepower, gave the TRD package on it. You think anybody would ever have talked shit about a Camry ever again? The Camry would have been the most feared families then. They would have showed the Ford Taurus SHO how it's done.
mm.
But that's me going off in a fantasy world where yes, family sedans, everything deserved to have a go fast package. Like that's why Ford won the people at one point because they
Uh huh.
gave all their cars like even if it was just an appearance package, which I really disliked the Americans 4 years ago for this. They brought some excitement on all their cars, whether even if it wasn't like a performance engine, they did give it like a bigger engine sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
it might not have been a performance derived engine, but they're like, hey, we put a bigger V6 in it. Yeah, it's still the same lazy ass mule engine from our other car, but it's bigger than the other one that it came with.
That is
It's like
true.
thank you. I
I
guess
thank you very
we'll
much. I
take it.
guess. Thank you very much. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like imagine though. Just imagine Toyota took that V6. It came in the Lexus, obviously a little bit more power, a little bit more technology, supercharged it. Boom.
Even if they reworked it for like I get it, the F stayed with the V8, and I get that. It makes sense. When you're branding
Yeah,
a
it
in
makes sense.
Lexus an
You know,
F.
they that was their performance. Like, M, Lexus had F.
Well, the thing about M is when it was Motorsport, but then you get variants like you get the Motorsport 3 series, which came with the inline six. You get the Motorsport 5, which comes with the V8. At the time,
Hmm.
at one point in time, the M3 came with a V8 and the M5 came with a V10. And then
Yeah,
even the older models, the M3 came with a high-strung four-cylinder, and the M5 came with
yeah,
an inline six.
a six
Then
cylinder.
then got a V8 after. So like
Yeah,
at least you had engine variants with some of these trim levels with Lexus. It was with the F model besides the LFA, which was the V10,
yeah,
which I still love to this day. The fact I think it's because the letter came in the middle. It was his own thing. It was his own thing to launch the F style, and then when they did the ISF, they trimmed all the Fs at the end. That's when I was like, all right, this is all V8. Like the only exception
yeah.
is the LC 500, but they let the number speak for itself. It's a 5 liter V8 to
It,
500.
well, the LC 500, I'm gonna say just like how Mercedes and BMW does it, gets to use the engine in the 500 badge because just like how Mercedes and BMW, they got like I'm gonna say more BMW. They got an X7, but they don't got like an X7M. Or like they have a 7 Series, but they don't have like a 7 Series M. It's like an
Mm.
M Sport. So like I think the LC 500 is deserving of that name. They should just definitely give it like an LC 500 F Sport
They should have just
package.
called it
They don't need to make it a
LCF
full.
though. They could have just called it a LCF. That's what I don't understand.
They could have, but then I feel like they would have had to go way more over the top with like in terms of like radical style. Like they would have had to give it some more aggressive front and rear fascias, a rear diffuser, maybe even like a little spoiler on the back, just to show that it's supposed
Yeah,
to be
true.
the race car.
But it's a
But like
Grand
I feel like
Tourer.
they
It was
wanted
at the end of the day, it was a
exactly
Grand Tourer, so it doesn't need all that.
just like the IS 500. Like, you know what I mean? They probably wanted to make another ISF, but then they're like, let's make it like a cruiser where you know what you're getting. Like when you buy the IS 500,
Hmm.
anybody who knows the Lexus brand and Lexus motors, you're getting an ISF, but you're just getting it in a more sedate package. More not as aggressive looking, not as over the top. It's just, hey, here's the engine, here's the car. We already reworked the suspension. Over the years, it's already at the peak. It's already better.
Hmm.
You do your little tweaks to it. It's your car. Like I felt like they kind of wanted just to send it off. They didn't want to send it off aggressively and like go over the top like some of the other manufacturers like Dodge and stuff. They were just like, here you go, people. We already canceled off the GSF, the RCF, but or they might still have the RCF. I might be mistaken. They're like, here you go. Here's just the 500.
Huh. So to end off, can we agree that if Alfa Romeo built a coupe, it will be what it needs to compete with its other European competitors? Or do you think it's not
I can
enough
agree.
and they need more than just that?
No, I honestly can agree with you because when you started saying M3 and 4 competitor, I really started to think like what really competes with those cars other than the Germans itself, which would be like, RS5 or like even like a C63, which
Hmm.
they don't even think they have C63 coupes anymore, do they?
I think it's called a. They have a C63 coupe, but then they have the 4 door or the 4matic, and there's a
Oh,
GT. It's now the GT63, which is the AMG GT successor. So they're
yeah,
like, hold on,
which is
let
like
me
the
look it
four
up.
door. I know they have the four door, which is basically a CLS but bigger and but like more
GT63.
refined. But yeah, does Mercedes really have a
Yeah,
C63
this
coupe?
right
Now you
here.
got me.
This is the
Yeah,
successor to the what's it called? The
yeah.
AMG GT, which the
And
front
then
looks
I know they got the
fantastic.
four door, and the four door is just a CLS, which
And they have an
with
option
better
of a
styles.
4matic to where it could be all-wheel drive. And then later on, they're gonna build a GT3 race variant so they could go racing with. So we're probably gonna see that pretty soon. So that it reminds us
So
of
yeah,
this car.
and so the last C63 coupe they made was in 2023.
Mm.
So they haven't made a newer C63 coupe. So you know what? What if Alpha made a coupe? Would that be enough to compete with the M3 M4? Absolutely, because there's nothing else really that gives you that type of driving characteristic and feel. That's that size, coupe wise, without breaking the bank. Like, yeah, you can get something like this, but this is to me these have always been more of like,
Luxury.
especially because of how long and yeah, these are more luxurious slash more on the S class level, like SL. Like back in the day, this would have been considered an SL coupe, but now today, they call them a GT 63 coupe on the AMG side. But you can get an SL Mercedes, SL, but it's not.
Well,
It's basically watered down.
they're gonna build a GT3 version of it soon because what they liked the body. What they didn't like, well, some people did not like was
A
they
long
went
hood.
no they went to the traditional, like with this body, the new body style. They went to the traditional the transmission. You know how the GTs, the transaxles in the back.
Transaxle.
Yeah, but
Yes.
since they did the four wheel drive variant, they did the regular transmission
Oh,
with the one in the front.
got it. With the
But
transfer case.
their new GTs that are coming out, they're gonna build it with the transaxle in the back, so it's gonna go back to its old roots. And then with the
Yeah,
race
to
car that they're
change up
building, they're
everything.
gonna go back to that too. So they're gonna have to build a homologation for the transaxle version, and then they're gonna do the actual race version for Group Three
Yeah,
or GTD
which is
racing.
smart for them to get away with, because
Yeah, of
now
course.
hey, you're still giving us production car variants, and then you're gonna give us a real race car that's gonna have real race car parts. So I think Alpha has exactly what it takes. They had the right formula
Yeah.
to dethrone or at least compete and make BMW, make their hair stand up, make their hair stand up in the back of their head or their neck like a peacock or like a cockatoo, one of those birds.
Cockatoo.
Make them say, hey, whoa, who did that? Hey guys, this G80, we may have to go back to the drawing board, but they already might be too late because BMW is already trying to say, hey, we're making an electric M3, and they're already trying to say like it's like almost like BMW said we already cemented our place as king in this year range. You know what I mean? In
Hmm.
terms of this car, like this car is like your new tuner car. Like back in the day, the Japanese were known for having the tuner cars,
Oh, of
but this
course.
is like the new like, hey, you can buy one, I can buy one, you can mod it and just have enough fun to be a nice daily driver. Or I could, so sorry, let me say it. I can mod it and have enough fun just to be a daily driver. You can mod it and be like, hey, this is going to be my supercar killer with a cage and everything and suspension. And you're like, hey, look, you're like, yeah, it's not, it's a sports car, but I'll give you your run for your money around the
He
track.
said, "Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it."
Like you're not like, oh well, I want to destroy my Hyura or my
My Hyura. Why you
my
mean?
Huracan. Oh yeah, yeah, thank you. Or I don't want to destroy my Aventador or my R8, or you're like, like hey, well, if something happens, I got a whole nother shell at the house, so you're like, let's do it, So
That's
it's like
interesting.
you got this nice tuner car where it's like, hey, very robust, very capable. Obviously, not jack of all trades. It might not master all of them, but it mastered some for damn sure. I like to say,
That is true, and I feel they could. We'll see.
and I
I
think
don't
with
think they ever
Toyota,
will, but
but I think with Toyota coming back into the performance world, I think my quick hot take. I think Toyota seeing BMW having fun with all the performance cars and stuff, and Toyota just having their hand with the Supra a little bit. I feel like Toyota's like, hey, we miss having fun like that. We used to dominate too. You know what? Get back to that. And I bet I wouldn't be surprised if they hit up their old CEO and said, hey, what's some projects and things you'd like to see? And he's like, well, this would be nice. This would be nice. This would be
well,
nice.
they
Okay.
are confirming they're bringing back the Celica, and they are confirming that they're bringing back the MR2. And like what we talked about, they should have different engines and trim levels for all these cars. They should build.
Yep.
They've already have the four cylinder that's coming on our way, which we all know what's gonna go on with that. Um, they should build another V6, another twin turbo V6. Not use the new 3.5 they're using in the Tundra and the LX and all that stuff. They should build something with a lower
And
center of
brand new
gravity. They should build like let's say a 90-degree V, something
performance.
that competes with like the the quadrifolio engine, the Alpha 690T. Well, not only compete it just something that destroys it and competes with the
Yeah,
VR38.
something for performance. Something for
Yeah,
performance, not something for emissions or something to make V8 power, but not really care about really like the performance, the sound. Like
yeah.
yes, maybe I'm going too much on based on like the engine doesn't sound appealing, but it'd be nice if the engine had more of a
Those
exotic,
Alpha 690Ts don't
velvety
sound
engine
that
note.
bad either. They sound pretty nice. They sound like a bobcat or like a cougar. They just rawr. I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It sounds rowdy, and that's the thing. That's why those alphas kind of have been appreciated, like especially with the exhaust. Like I mean, hell, Jaguar when they came out with that 5.0, the AJ V8, it sounded amazing. You know what I mean? When it came out, we know they're not that reliable today.
hmm
As most Jaguar owners know, but when they ran, they sounded epic.
yeah.
So does the Alpha. But the Alpha at least runs.
I think I don't. They're not gonna do it, judging by the way the brand focuses and the fact that Maserati and Ferrari are obviously their parent brands. But I think if
Yeah,
they would, they'll be going in there for a hell of a run, and they'll be start doing some batshit crazy shit. But
how about
talking about
this?
motors and
You want to
cars
know
and
something
shit like
crazy?
that, what's up? Before I go,
Draft draft the back half of an older M3 coupe, that window onto the Alpha,
yeah.
elongate the door,
Well, then you just get an
show them
M2. You just get
exactly
an
what they should
M2
make.
rear quarter panel. Then at that point,
Yeah, exactly. And then show them exactly how it's done. Just get that whole quarter panel,
yeah.
graft it in with the Alpha lights. Boom. Say, hey, Alpha.
But then that'll be more of an
Built it.
M2 competitor since it's only rear wheel drive.
Hmm?
But
Brings us to
everyone
the
will
next
want the
thing.
M3 and M4 though, because it's
Because
the
all-wheel drive.
yeah. So make an all-wheel drive coupe. That shit would be crazy. Make the
See,
or make the quad now all-wheel drive, because all the quad
you know
nows
what?
are just coupes. I mean, the quad nows are just
Quick,
rear-wheel drive.
quick rant. If Dodge or Stellantis is smart, they would figure out how to license the BMW variant of the 8 HP because the BMW one has the front, or the Audi ones has the front diffs, or at least built into it.
hmm
So now you don't have to worry about getting an external transfer case. But we know they're probably not going to do that. They're probably just going to try to shoehorn some external transfer case, or if they have the space,
I
and if
don't.
not,
I personally
they'll
don't
probably just make
mind the
railroad ties.
external transfer case because let's say you blow the transfer case up, you have to buy a whole trans.
Good point.
I don't
Good
mind
point.
that at all. I rather that, to be honest. At least I can swap transfer cases and just make sure the nut where the shaft goes is screwed on to the right depth, and that's pretty much it.
Valid point. Valid point. Valid point. Valid
You
point.
want an internal transfer case transmission? Be my guest. I ain't doing that. Nah.
Valid point.
Like GTR
No,
transmissions are a
that makes
perfect
sense.
example. Those are internally gated. Those are integrated all-wheel drive, uh, rear transaxle transmissions, and when they blow up, that's it. You can't you can't
Yeah.
take the transfer case out and just do the transmission. You gotta do the whole thing.
Yeah, you got a point.
You
You got
know.
a point.
Granted, that transmission when built right is bonkers, and they do 6120 times like crazy, but still. But speaking of
Yeah,
engines
we
and
just saying.
trans and what people should build, let's go over to the big three in America. We talked about Ford's Legend motor, what we think it should be. But which one
Mhm.
would you think it will be the best, let's say? Dodge's Elephant, now Chevy's LT7, not even Chevy's, 1,000 horsepower crate motor, but Chevy's now twin turbo, 1,063 horsepower engine, or what supposedly is going to be Ford's Legend motor. But before we get into that, what would we think Ford's Legend motor was again? I think it should be a dual overhead cam 7 liter and bring back the whole GT40, essence of things. But you said, what was it? What did you say?
I think it's going to be based on their 7.3 current push rod, and they're going to make it maybe, like you said, a 7 liter, or they're going to make it like something. It's probably going to be 7.1. They're going to call it a 7 liter. And then they're going to say, like, hey, like you said, like, I'm going based on what you said, Ford history, legend, the GT40, that was considered a legendary motor. I get it. But I don't know. It's tough. It's like, it's so tough because we know for like it might be like what Dodge did with the Hellcat motor. They're like, hey,
Mm.
here's a Hellcat, here's a Demon, and basically it's just the Hellcat motor with a bigger supercharger tuned for E85 and race fuel. It's like, but you said it was the Demon, and it's like, well, I'll just get a Hellcat. Well, then they're like, Hellcat Red Eye, and I'm like, but so it's the Hellcat with red eyes. Like, did he smoke? Like, I don't know. Yeah. But like, okay, it's a Hellcat that's a little bit more pissed off. So it got red eyes. Like, you know, it's a little, it sees red. It's like a bull. So it has
Mhm.
797 instead of 707. I want to know if Ford is going to say, hey, because I mean, I think in the article it said it's going to be an all new motor.
Mhm.
So if it's going to be all new, really, what will they give us? Like, will it be a 6 point, a 5 liter plus dual overhead cam, or will it be a push rod? Will Ford go back to their push rod days and say, you know what? You know, Chevy and everybody's been doing push rod. Let's do a push rod too. Or will they say, hey, Chevy, you guys made this goddamn LT7 1,000 horsepower crate motor, dual overhead cam, flat plane crate. We could do that too.
Well, the
So
thing
like,
is,
I want to
like,
know.
although they did do that, they kind of mastered the do overhead cam engines in America first. They kind of did it first, so it's like, and they've been doing it ever since. So I just want
Yeah,
to
no,
reiterate that
nobody
only
ever
only
can
the
top the
American
quad motor.
brands, not Japanese. Like Japanese been doing it, the Germans, everyone else
Yeah,
has been doing
yeah.
it. It's just America's now like Ford did the dual overhead cam shit first, as far as V8s or bigger displacement or bigger more cylinders goes, and then now everyone else is kind of jumping on. Let's
You
say.
know what? You just made me have to look up something from like the old school article because now I need to see if it was Ford 4.6 dual overhead cam, or if that came out first, or if the North Star came out first. Because the North Star, don't get me wrong, did pretty good, right?
The North Star.
But I think the 4.6, but I think the Ford 4.6 came out in 91. You know what I mean? So let me look up the Ford 4.6. Yeah, 1990. So the Ford 4.6 came out first. So guess what? Ford, like you said, they did it right. They did it first.
Yeah,
So, and
commercially
Ford's
wise.
first dual overhead MV8. Wow. So yeah, so you see, they've been doing it for a while. So guess what? Um, if anybody had the guts and glory to do it, it'd be Ford. So
And it
do I
came
think
out
they
in a
can definitely
Lincoln
do?
Mark 8 luxury coupe.
Yes, the four valve at least.
Yep.
Yeah, because they had the single overhead cam. Yeah, they had the two valves that came out for years, and those came out in 1990. The four valve came out in the Lincoln Mark 8, which was the daddy to the Cobra. Quick fact for anybody paying attention: Lincoln Mark 8 came with B heads. Cobras came with C heads. Get a Lincoln Mark 8
Yeah,
motor,
yeah,
you swap the
yeah,
heads, you put
yeah,
C heads
yeah.
on it. You got a budget
Yeah,
Cobra,
yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
has a Tech Sid block, handle 1,000 horsepower from the factory. But that's beyond that. Um, yeah. So since Ford has been the first, I say let Ford do it. Let Ford do their thing.
But like,
Let Ford go.
imagine this engine in a 7-liter variant. Like, come on.
See, it'd be nice. I just want to know how big can they go dual overhead cam before it starts to become,
What?
you know,
Obsolete?
shaky.
Shaky, shaky?
Yeah, yeah, like till it revs itself, shakes itself apart. With all the extra moving parts. But then again, push rods aren't really meant to rev high. So the bigger the push rod motor, the less it revs. I always figured the bigger the dual overhead cam motor, the less it would like to rev. But I don't think that's the case. I think dual overhead cams definitely like to rev more. So if Ford did a 7.0, it probably might not rev to 8. Maybe it'd rev to 7.5 or
It doesn't
6.
have to. The
You
thing
know,
is, the thing is, although I want the 7-liter to rev, it doesn't have to. It's the fact that they're
yeah,
calling it
it's
a
so big.
legend motor. I want them to build an equal length style header, like for even scavenging on a dual overhead cam 7-liter. That's all I want to reminisce the old GT40s because they were messing with the exhaust runners to get even scavenging. I just want something similar to that, but in a 7-liter variant, newer tech, newer school, newer technology, in that sense, you can't call a Legend motor a Legend and not build what the Legend's supposed to be, what we all think it's supposed to be. That's the way
I
I look at
mean,
it.
Coyote's kind of legendary.
Yeah,
I'm
but it's
kidding.
not. The 5.0 is legendary. Yes, 5.0.
I'm just,
When you hear 5.0, you hear two things: cops and Mustangs. Like
yeah,
that's one of that's it. When you hear 5.0, those two things are synonymous. That's all.
yeah.
But when you're talking about legend, I get it. A
I
350
think it's gonna
small, I
be.
get it. A 350 small block is legend, but that 7-liter is legendary.
I think they're gonna give us. See, I don't know. I don't know if the 7.3 is considered a big block.
I think
I think
so.
it is. Yeah, or 7.3
7.3 liter is
big block
considered
or small block.
a big block. Let's see what AI
Okay,
says.
slightly larger than a 351 engine Windsor.
Yeah, it's a big block.
But it's technically considered a small block due to its relatively small bore spacing. But so
I
some
thought it was based
argue
on
that its
cubic
large
inches.
displacement. See, right? That's what I thought. But I'm like, so because I know people have said for years, like, well, Chevy's, you know, 7 liter LS isn't a big block.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm like, yeah,
Ford
that's
says
true.
it's a big block Chevy, a big block Ford. It's a big block V8.
Yeah. So yeah, because see, the big block, illuminator,
But at least if
so yeah,
seven,
it would be
the
considered a big block.
7.3 Godzilla directly from Ford Performance is $88,150. You can buy. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. So before it would be considered if it was a physically larger block. So that's why some people are like, it's not really a big block today, but it is in fact a big block because
Oh, for
Ford
sure,
even
it's a big
describes it
block.
as a big block because it's supposed to go on a truck and it's kind of heavy. So we're gonna call this a big block. So I say Ford. What I see Ford doing is making this block out of aluminum. I see them shrinking it a little bit. You know what I mean? Trimming some fat. It already makes 430 horsepower, 475 pound-feet of torque. So if this motor can drop a little bit of weight, rev a little higher, compression ratio is 10.5 to 1, drop that down to 9,
Mm-hmm.
give it some nice forced induction, all aluminum, and who knows what? I know it's a push rod motor.
Yeah.
I say re-engineer the motor, somehow make it where it's dual overhead cam. So if that means just scraping up, reworking the block as much as you have to, like that means like taking it in the CAD program, going down basically just down to the crank and reworking the block from the ground up. So it's a dual overhead cam motor. So be it. It'll be reworked. It'll be different. But hey, at least we'll know that it's 100% Ford.
But now that we have a basis of what the Legend motor should be, which one you think is top dog?
As of right now, I'm sorry, Chevy's LT7. I didn't have to think about it. Chevy's LT7 is top dog right now. Okay, back in the day, everybody would consider the Hellcat a Hellfit motor, top dog. Me just knowing what Hellcats and how heavy Hemis are and the vehicles that Hemis come in,
Mm-hmm.
this is why I've always said they're nice to me. A Hemi, muscle car, synonymous, like you said. So it's like that's why Dodge losing their Hemi and their muscle. It's like what's going on? So I expect their cars to be heavy. I don't expect them to be fast. I expect them to be very good show cars in cars that will come to the car meet, put on a scene and like a nice show, whether it's just listening to the exhaust, hearing the raw power as it drives by, or watching the dude peel out or do a donut in the parking lot. That's where the Hemis kind of shine. Um, Ford's Legend motor, I expected to do the same thing, but I expected to be fast in a straight line, and also take some curves because the car is going to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know Ford's notorious for making at least decent handling cars. I'm not gonna say the Mustang's one of the best handling, but it's improved a lot over the years. And we know Chevy with the C8, they're trying to take the C8 so serious. They're trying to turn it into a supercar. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted to compete with Lamborghinis now. They wanted to compete with Ferrari. They're tired of saying, oh, well, we compete with the Mustang or we compete with like the Viper and everything else. They're like, we want to compete with the big dogs now. So with this motor, Chevy's resetting the bar and they're setting the bar very high. So it's almost like Ford's gonna have to go back to the drawing board and say, hey, um, we thought our GTV Mustang was going to be like, the new king, the creme, the king of the crop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, Chevy, you made your Corvette mid-engine, but all we did is move the transmission back. So now it's like they're gonna have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, shit, Chevy, you guys kind of outdid us. Like, we both had projects, but we weren't expecting that.
Yeah, they smacked it right out the park. I agree with you. I think that LT7 is crazy,
But
crazy.
Ford right now, and what Ford has going for them is they know their 5.0s are selling really good.
Mm.
So, so they know that right now that their 5.0 is on hot demand right now because everybody and their mama wants an F-150 or a Mustang with it, and or they're swapping it into their old school projects now. Like all the old Mustangs. Like think of all the old '60s Mustangs that people years ago thought, man, I got the best engine. I got a Terminator motor. I got a Cobra motor, or I got the 5.4 supercharged. Now they're like, yo, honey, I need money for an alternator. Well,
Fucking hell.
but now, yeah, now I think of it. Now most of them are swapping out, and they're like, "Hey, I need that 5.0," and they know the power potential is just that much greater than the 4.6 or 5.4.
Of
I
course.
mean, yeah, you can build a 5.4 or 4.6 up, but I mean, mod for mod, number for number. I mean, the 5.0 speaks for itself.
No, the 5 liter is definitely has potential. You can take it from anywhere, and although it does have
Yeah,
that stupid ticking issue, um,
yeah.
to me, it's a great engine. I like the Voodoo a little more than the Coyote, but I will never knock the Coyote because the Coyote is just that good of a motor. I just like the Voodoo because
Yeah,
they spent a little more time with it. I guess I would say. But
this is
uh,
gonna sound funny.
what's that?
When the Coyote came out, and when Dodge had the 392s and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago I told myself I would end up getting a white Mustang and relive my dreams of money making Mitch.
Oh man,
BBS's convertible Mustang, BBS's gold BBS's on it, modern interpretation, the 5.0 6 speed manual. It's cruising around.
yeah. It's just
Like
coyote. Those
so,
coyote heads are fucking large, so
yeah,
large.
yeah they are,
Like
yeah they
compared
are.
to like
Like look,
compared to like the Toyotas and the Ferrari heads, these heads are large.
massive.
Like holy shit, you don't need that large of a head, but they do it.
Yeah,
Like
they
you
did it.
can make him square. They're like, nah, we're gonna fit the biggest cam we got in that move, which makes
Yep.
sense from an American standpoint, but still, holy shit.
Yeah, no, you can tell Ford wasn't playing. They took all the knowledge they learned from the 4.6 to 5.4, and they gave us something in between. Like they said, okay, the 4.6 is point 0.4 displacement lower than 5.0, and the 5.4 is point 0.4 displacement higher. Let's meet you guys in the middle.
Fucking hell. Ah, engines, engines, engines. Let's wrap up. I was gonna get to this topic, but we're about to run out of time. But best
No
two
such thing.
liter four cylinder.
Wow. Best 2 liter four cylinder. Oh man.
Best 2 liter four cylinder.
Let me think about this. Let me think about this. Let me think about this. Best 2 liter four cylinder.
Yes. Best 2 liter four cylinder.
In the world, like okay, ever created. Okay, best 2 liter. Not modern, not current
Ever
engine.
created that has been in production. Best 2 liter.
Damn, that's tough. That's between Toyota's 3S, Honda's K20, and Mitsubishi's. Well, is that even a 2 liter? No.
Mitsubishi's 2 liter. They do. They still have it.
Okay, I have 2 liter. Good. Man, no, man.
There's a lot of choices. Is the
I, I, I'm making a decision. I'm making a decision.
go for it.
Although I have a 3S motor in my garage, and I want to say that that's one of the best motors because of the videos I've watched, knowing the untapped potential of those engines. I'm only gonna say right now for today because if I had one, I would just beat the piss out of it. I'd get a K20.
Hmm. It's
I'd get a
hard.
K20.
It's hard for me
But
because.
it's not the best. I can't say it's the best. I just know that for
So
what
then,
I'd
what's
want
the
to do
best?
today.
No, it has to be best, not opinionated.
Opinionated, okay. Then I'm gonna stick with the 3S because I know the untapped potential. And I'll make more power than a K20
Best four.
on the
There's a lot of
factory.
options. There's Audi's four
But that
cylinders,
Mitsubishi, I was gonna say Audi, but they have some dumb issues. But
The
recently
EA
they've been
triple
good.
eights, the 2 liters. For what you get for
I
the
mean,
power package, it's not bad.
yeah, no, it's great. It's great power. I mean, then BMW even has a 2.0 four-cylinder too that I forget about.
Even the older 1.8s with the 5 valve heads, like they people in Europe like make so much power out of them.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, I feel like those are always interesting engines because they had 5 valve heads. So like, it's like you had a way to get more air in it, and you know what I mean. And then to get the exhaust out, it's exhaust, so it just needs exhaust. So I always said it's pretty cool.
I'm trying to
It's
find
like you don't
the
really see
four
an engine that
cylinder.
has you know that has 5 valve heads. You really don't.
But they can make a decent amount of
But the
power, but
Germans did
they're
it.
they're definitely limited in some sense. Um, I want to
You
say
know what?
I want to say Audi or Honda, but I might have to go Mitsubishi.
I don't blame you because Mitsubishi makes a damn good motor. Honda also makes a good motor. We know Hondas make
Specifically the
great, great motors.
4G63.
Yeah,
I might have to go.
that's
I
why when you
might
said
have to go with that.
2.0, that's why you said 2.0, and I don't know the name of Honda's new lineup of new 2.0 T motors. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Mm,
I know they're relatively good though. Like I know as of right now, those new 2.0 Ts are. Let's see,
of
Honda
course.
2.0 T. What do they call it? I
Does a K20C4
They
something like
all
that?
think so. What is it called? Honda Info Center. No, I want the engine code. I don't want just what the engine has. I want yep,
What's it called?
K20C4. Yep,
Yeah, called yeah,
K20C1, K20C4.
yeah. Sounds right.
Yep, and unfortunately, it inherited the basic design of the L15. So that's why people today, even though they say it's a K, they call it not really a true K today. Well,
Um, I don't know.
it's a
I,
K,
I
but
kind of want
it's
to
like
say the Audi 1.8 is probably one of the best four cylinders, but I still have to go back to the 4G, because as much as I want to say the 4B11, but the 4G just to me has better potential. And the way they designed that block was stupid. At least Audi stuck to what they knew. So as much as I want to say Audi,
yeah,
I'm probably going to say the 4G. I'll say 4G and then the 3S because I do like the 3S, but the block itself kind of has its own flaw if pushed to the max. Not saying stock for 'em, I'm saying pushed to the max. The
yep,
4G you don't really run into that issue. Like yeah, the Evo 4 to 7 you had the crank walk issue, but the Evo 8 through 9 4G63s fixed that issue. So I would still say I'd rather deal with a spun crank than a cracked block. The way I look at it.
all day.
But then again,
all
the
day.
the 3S does have Yamaha heads, so that's why I kind of slightly go towards that. So it's just a weird. It's like
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where I'm just juggling. I'm like, eh. So
It's like, oh, which one?
I'll probably say the 4G. I do like the 4G a lot. I'm gonna say the
I want
4G.
to see people push the new K motors and see what they can max out at because I feel like those are going to be good modern day budget swaps. Like what did we say earlier? Retro mods.
Resto
I feel like that'd be
mods.
nice to see. Yeah, like imagine seeing the new interior from a Civic inside of an old like EG, EK or something,
Mm,
EF, and you're just looking at it like, why is this here? And then they're like, oh, pop the hood. You pop the hood. It's a modern 2020 motor, and you're like, why is this in here?
true.
So
I'll definitely like to see that. But yeah. So we're running out of time, so we're gonna. There's one more topic we were gonna do, but we're gonna save that for Thursday. It's actually something me and Blake are both very interested in because we talk about it a lot, and I'm vastly experienced in this area.
sounds. Does it sound?
Of course.
I don't know.
But
Ah,
that'll be all for today's podcast. Thank y'all for joining in. This was a more opinionated discussion type topic, but it was definitely a lot of good points taken. Oh, it finally
yeah,
works.
yeah, right. It worked. I was like, wow. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm like, it was early, but it worked.
That is true. But I am Sir Rod. This right here, Sir Blake. You're with us on the ICE podcast on these Sunday card discussions. With that
Yes.
note, we'll catch y'all Thursday night. Hopefully, this man will stay awake.
Yeah, I'll be awake. I'm making sure I get my sleep. And if I have to work during the day, I'm not working. I'm not overworking myself.
Yeah, you better not.
Taking it one step at a time.
Exactly. But we'll catch y'all on the next one. So, peace.